right. How's it going today? Welcome to, I hope it is a holiday for all of you out there. I hope you're sitting on your butts, having a good time, doing whatever. And it has been a very eventful weekend. In fact, and I don't know what this will mean or not, we just had the announcement that Alex Stein is going to have Vic Mignogna on to talk about Nick Rekieta. And I hope that's a positive thing, honestly. Oh Lord, let me pull up that announcement real quick. I saw that and I thought, my God. Now again, there's no indication that it's going to be a negative thing. That is, it's just, when you have specific venues and like Alex Stein, I'm not expecting rainbows and crumpets. Then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all good to go. Again, I could be very well mistaken. Give me 1 second. I'm setting everything up real fast. Yay, Twitter isn't working. Yay, Twitter. Stupid fucking Twitter. In the middle of it, I'm like, hey, I'm going to pull this announcement up. No, you're not. Okay, well, I'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, Again, it's open for interpretation, too. I mean, it says, Vic Mignogna tells his side of the story about Nick Rekieta. You don't want to miss what is revealed, especially not you, Rekieta Law. So it tagged him in. And hopefully, like I said, I hope that's a positive thing. And the reason I say that, I'm not trying to make excuses for anyone or anything like that. These discussions are not about that. I think I've been very vocal in the fact that I personally think that Nick Rekieta needs help. I personally think he needs to get his ass offline and not be posting, because he has been posting. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions. It's not my life, though. I'm talking about specific items, and it's a weird place to be, because typically you don't know people that are in these positions here, and that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to talk about what we're discussing here today, too. I wanted to make sure where he's been posting, locals, and he posted on Twitter today. He actually posted on Twitter, too. So give me a second. Yeah, there it goes. Twitter actually loaded. Give me 1 minute. Yeah. He posted on Twitter today. One thing, but it was actually about Vic Mignogna. It was a comment to it. And I was just like, man, don't. I realize the temptation to respond, it'd be rough. I mean, this is what he does all the time. Again, I'm not excusing his behavior. In fact, I don't think he should be doing this at all. But there was an interview, and I'm not trying to get into the crazy rumors or what may have happened behind closed doors. That is not the purpose for this. I mean, there's plenty of shows like Kino Casino. They covered that. Yeah, Ethan Rand, all these people they cover that, and fine. That's totally fine. That is the internet. In fact, that was part of Rekieta circles too. I mean, he's covered things that have happened with them. So I mean, that's part of it. I'm not. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. But he responded to this. So this is Mr. Metokur. Okay. Actually, let me zoom in on what he's responded to here. So he actually posted a few of the comments that were covered. There's quite a few of them actually, but he posted this specific one. It was interesting. There's certain things that I think that understandably might be trigger points for Rekieta. He's mentioned them in his locals, for example, when he local posted. He mentioned family. Come after me, don't come after family. That's understandable. Also, the Vic Mignogna thing. Apparently, that was something that he was like, that's messed up. I mean, anything with that Aaron guy. Again, I'm not getting into the Aaron thing, pro or con. I have certain speculations. I personally wonder, again, this is wonder. This is not saying it happened, but I wonder, even with the discussions about the warrant, I wonder if he called in and talked. It's interesting they went after safes and stuff, but again, that's all speculation. I don't know that, so it doesn't help me. If I let my mind go down that tunnel, there's so many what ifs. I have reached out, by the way, and been like, I mean, I've been pretty, I think, blunt about stuff. Like Like, I think he has a need. And it is overstepping bounds. Like, we don't have that relationship where we, like, idly talk and, DM and stuff like that. But, I mean, not DM, but phone text. DM every now and then. Although I have to say, like, a lot of people that knew Rekieta, I haven't talked to him in a while. Nothing against him, but the stuff that he covers and the sex talk, all that, that's just, it's not me, man. I don't want to be there. And that's not moral judgment or anything else. It's not for me, I didn't want to be around it. And I felt that he was sliding. I did, but I hadn't watched him in a long time. It wasn't until the big live stream that people brought up that I think it became obvious. But anyway, so he responds to this. And Nick, this is a quote, by the way. Nick would trash Vic, talking about Vic Mignogna a lot. He would trash his sexuality. Said it wasn't his fault. It said it wasn't his fault. It was Vic's fault. And he's like, bro. So Nick decided he would respond to this. Again, you shouldn't be looking at this anyway, Nick. Just don't. In this storm, the internet is the one thing that you shouldn't look at. It's like throwing a drowning man a bucket of water. It's not gonna work for you. That it's just gonna take you down. It's gonna take you down faster. You can respond to it later, but get everything ready first. Get it all in a place where, again, you can really formulate your thoughts, respond to things, be honest too, because people love a redemption arc. But he responded. He was like, yeah, right. Now this guy is a calculus equation as credibility approaches negative infinity. Now, you see there are a lot of comments there too. I mean, this is the one thing, and a lot of people, of course, you're going to have comments about, I'm going to say some tactless things, maybe. I don't know. Again, you know what kind of comments you're going to get, but a lot of these comments are like, bro, get off the internet, man. You shouldn't be here. You have important things going on, and this isn't it. I mean, honestly, it'll run a couple of this cycle. It'll come up periodically. It'll boost up, but all the noise about it, well, it'll 4 weeks. And I'm not saying it's easy to sit through either. It is not fun sitting through an internet cycle when you become the punchline. It is not fun, or you're the topic of discussion. Wouldn't say I'm not. By the way, people ask, I smoke a cigar. It would be very tactless of me to do something else. I do not do anything else. But in this, some of it gets. I'm like, ah. So I'm gonna calm, mellow, smoke a cigar. I just, otherwise, I want to yell at somebody. Like I said with this, I was like, man, don't read the online stuff, man. You focus on your real life, sorting out what happened, options, find your options there. You know what this tells me too? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this. I don't believe that Nick has a lawyer yet. That's my guess. I do not believe he actually has a lawyer. Because any lawyer would tell you to stay the fuck offline. That'd be the very first thing they would tell you. Stay offline. Don't talk about this stuff at all. Like, say nothing. Talk to no one. Vent it, don't let it eat you. For this stuff, I mean, I'm just frustrated. I've never been so conflicted on covering something or not. And it took me a few discussions. Luckily for me, I talked about this the day before the arrest, because that live stream was so bad that he was in that I was like, man, he's going to die. He's going to die online. Now, I've actually heard a few people say that, he's starting to get stuff sorted and everything. I don't know. I mean, again, there's talk, but it sounds like things are coming together. And then I see this. I'm like, I don't know what to believe. I think, again, this is not a good sign of where you are. And if when I talk about this too, we're going to look at the discussion today. We're actually going to look at about 14 minutes of what Mr. Metokur had to say. The end of his stream was great, to be honest. Jim did he could have been really hard with Nick, but you could tell that he liked the guy. I mean, yes, there's certain things that are punchlines right now, but he did it I thought for him, like he's the only person online that truly scares me to cover. So for him to cover and Rekieta walk away and me think, yeah, he could rebound, I mean, that says, that says he liked him. That said he liked him quite a bit. Because otherwise, whew. But that last 14 minutes was, was it worth it? I thought that was a good message, and hopefully he listened to it. Now, I get the feeling from this statement right here, too, that he's been listening to Aaron. In fact, I've gotten the feeling just from a couple of other things that I've heard, again, not talking out of school or anything. I get the feeling he's listening and he watched this stuff with Aaron. I get that feeling. And that is bad. I realize the temptation that's there. If you haven't been keeping up, by the way, that third person that was arrested, there's been a lot of stuff discussed. It is disgusting. Some of the discussed about them. You can, if you want to know about it, again, Kino Casino, places like that. That's what they talk about. But that guy Aaron was her soon-to-be ex-husband, and they talked about some things that allegedly happened behind the scenes. That, like I said, that's not. The only reason I bring that up is because that's what this comment is about. That's exactly what this discussed. So it's not me bringing that up, this comment. And it opens it up. Here's the problem with this comment, too, is it opens all of this up for public conversation. So people that might have not heard that, because again, that's a different sector of the internet, like internet blood sports or whatever the hell it's called now. I don't know what internet blood sports are. I don't know what, like Ethan Ralph and, again, no negative to anybody I'm talking about. It's just this specific thing. To me, I know them. I know them back from the mundane Matt. No, Matt, no. I know him from all that stuff. So I don't really know what they're called anymore. But those folks, they had interviews, like I said, and everything. And Nick is watching this. Now, on top of that, he's posting locals posts. And there have been a few. Now, the first one that came up, actually, if it would have been preceded by, I get there's a legal portion to all of this stuff, too. So there could be the argument for why he's not in rehab yet. But, the first post, like the day of the arrest, I'm going to, there was one that just happened just a minute ago. This is why I mentioned this. The first one could have been funny if it was followed by, hey, now I'm going to rehab, or something. Or, hey, now I'm, I know there's a lot going on. Again, it could have danced around it, whatever, And I get there's some probably legal considerations, but I'm not a lawyer. I work in mental health. And for me to see this stuff, I think he was in crisis, honestly, as far as drug use is concerned. That would be an actual technical term. He was in crisis. Like when you saw him on stream, he was that far down. And now I don't know how you can tell me with this circus that's going on that he is not in a mental health crisis right now. And what we've run into here. And I think Viva and Barnes brought this up very good. That's why I wanted to have this discussion today. They were talking about the legal aspects versus what like what I see and observe as a mental health provider. When I see this, I know he needs help. I want him to get help. That is not the same as trust the police. There's also something that's disturbed me too, and I want to note this as well. I have seen people railing against the mandatory reporter, the pastor that came out and and made a report. That seems to be all indication. I haven't seen anyone go contra. I would think that would be corrected if we haven't seen the entire document. I don't even know where the hell we can't confirm that whole document there. But it looks like there was a pastor that went in. Again, a mandatory reporter. You told about something. People have been, that person's name came out, as well as the names of all the kids, which is horrible. And there have been people out there that have been blaming the pastor and targeting them. And obviously nobody would, that's insane. There are people like, oh, he did that to cover his own ass. Well, not really. Well, what it is, you tell me, if you find out about a situation where a child is potentially in danger and you want a wellness check, that's what a mandatory reporter asks for. If you look at that first document, we don't know how it went from there to where they went into the home. Because I can tell you, from the mental health side of that, as a mandatory reporter, I've had to do this before. It's a shitty place. You don't want to do that. But I found out from a person one time, for example, that there was a live-in boyfriend that this person had. And they had a small child, and the person that they had moved in, their live-in boyfriend right then, was, I'm going to say, a PDF file. You got to call about that because you worry about the kid. Now, the way it's been spun, again, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying, by no stretch of the imagination am I comparing that. I'm saying, in that situation there, am I protecting myself? No. So when the pastor goes in and says they're worried about something, like there's a specific protocol. And again, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just talking about mandatory reporters. I want to make that very clear there. With a mandatory reporter, you hear about something, it is your obligation. Like if you've heard that there's been something horrible that's happened in the past, but there's no chance of repeat, it's not happening in the present, or it's not going to be a consideration in the future, that doesn't trigger that consideration. It's only in specific elements or environments that's there. And again, it could be doctors, nurses, And, there was a legal discussion about that too. They're actually, Viva and Barnes, they were talking, and love to them, I don't mean anything negative when I talk about any of them either. They were talking about that. And they were like, from a client's perspective, I tell them, well, you can't talk to anybody. Well, on the same side of that, like these laws may suck sometimes, but at the same time, they save lives too. Because there are situations where you want somebody to go out and discuss. And again, that should trigger a welfare check, though. That is a CPS check, where CPS knocking at your door. That's not typically a warrant with somebody, coming to knock your door. And typically there's more. There's something else. It's not just that. Now, like what was brought up in discussion, again, I'll show a video for this. What was discussed we don't have all of the information of what led up through those days because it happened on the 16th. You had the report, and then you have around a week pass. So a lot of time passed, and we don't know exactly what built up during that time. But, so we had this first one. Let me do this. I don't want this to linger here. So then you had the second. You've had a few of these posts, all right? And I don't know if they're all up on locals. That's why I'm pulling them this way. You had the second one. And the second and the third they were on the 24th. So you're talking about when all of this happened. And now you've had new ones again, after everything went crazy. So about the news. Hey, obviously a lot has happened. I'm sorry for legal purposes. It must be reiterated that the sorry is for the disruption. Is no way related to any pending legal actions. Man, Pegel. Man, today in the English language for me are rough. I don't know why. But again, legalese. Hey, yeah, I'm sorry for that disruption. That said, please realize that it's no one has the full story or picture on anything. And I'm sure that's very true. Certain things I think are probably explainable. There's certain things in the in police documentation that I'll show you that I think that those. But anyway, you're not going to have the whole picture. But I think that also talks about the other elements. You know, there's all we've heard so far is this guy Aaron talking about that. I mean, who knows? And really, I don't. If you have an issue, because I've heard people, again, I'm just going to be blunt about this. I'm not dancing. Again, I'm not trying to explain things away. People have had problems with it because of Nick's platform before versus now. Like, hey, look at what was said before, like kids being around and stuff, and look what's said now. And obviously there's anger, but we don't know everything. So there's gonna be a lot more of this, I think, is what I'm saying. I don't think anybody has the whole story. It's possible no one ever will. That's true. That's probably true. We will probably never have every answer there. Nothing reported is accurate. That's not their fault. I've seen so many supportive messages. Thank you for that. I'll still be doing stuff at home now. Stay tuned for show announcements and stuff here on Locals. And, you know, I was torn. I was torn on this because I personally feel rehab now. That was my thought right then. Rehab now. It's not just there's three things there. No matter how you feel about Doc, and again, he's innocent until proven guilty as far as the charges are concerned. Absolutely. Having said that, I know that he was having problems. I could see it. I'm not fucking blind. You know, I do this as a professional. like there's a bunch of bullshit if you're going to tell me he doesn't have a substance abuse problem. They'll call that out every time. That is, you know, you can argue that. Other people can argue that. That's bullshit. The man I saw there, yeah, 100%. I would say he's in crisis. He needed intervention then. Now, all the other stuff, again, that gets mixed in there. But as far as rehab, you're going to have the child endangerment thing. You're going to have CPS involved in your life. Rehab says, hey, I'm responsible. I'm getting everything sorted. I'm doing it right now. And they're the most dangerous thing out of this. Everybody's focused on the potential 25 years. You can get the weight down on that potentially. There's a lot of things you could do to handle that. First time offense. I mean, really, you're probably talking probation. But when CPS comes into your life, they're scary. They are a scary organization. Like I said, I've seen them professionally, and they have. When there was an incident where they were fighting in Texas with the governor there? I can't remember exactly. It was a high-placed politician, and they couldn't stop what was going on. It tells you how much power they have. So you go out of your way to make sure that everything's situated there. And I doubt that they will give children back there. I doubt it. I mean, I guess they could, but probably not. They'll probably allow like visitation. You know, they'll be in a safe environment, but you know, I don't see that happening. No, again, I don't know in Minnesota. Maybe it's different there. I have no idea how that specific town is or anything. Like they may have somebody, but with all the attention this has and everything else too, I don't see them. I don't see them going easy. You know, and they have every right. And again, you know, I'm not saying anything negative about that too. I mean, you want to have the kids, you want to make sure they're safe. And I'm absolutely in no way, shape, or form saying that he's ever done anything to children. I'm not saying that either. You know, that charge comes up with substances in the home. Like there's been some discussion about another charge with that was listed on I'm not sure the particulars on that. We've been looking and trying to find the original document and see if like somebody hit the wrong button on a computer. Who knows? Because it wasn't in the it wasn't discussed by the judge. you would have had that come up. So we don't know how that came up, but really what it is it's attached to the drug charges. And like I said, he's innocent until proven guilty there. At the same time, like with them defaulting to child safety, I mean, I saw a lot of lawyers like banging their fists and being like, oh my God, but I see the other side of that. And I know there are situations where you need them to have power. I do not advocate for governmental power and authority. I'm telling you, there are some absolute scumbags out there. And you don't want to be just like, whatever. And most people too, the people that investigate this, they're usually in private care. Here's another thing about CPS or really any governmental service. Like in private care, you max out the clients that you can service. Like you might have as a case, or depending on where you live, case or care manager, a CM. Typically, privatized care, they'll max you out in the 30s, 30, 35 clients. That's it, right? With CPS, I knew a guy who worked for CPS that was carrying 78 clients when I talked to them. 78 cases. I mean, that's crazy, So, they default to whatever they do. And I get, again, I feel like I'm stuck in this weird place between, when I look at it from mental health perspective, I hear what some lawyers are saying. Again, I think you have to be real careful with kids. You have to be real careful with your freedoms and rights too. It's one of those things. I don't have any good answer for it. I don't. I just want the kids to be okay. But anyway, so the second one was not really. I really wanted to go live tonight. So this was the day of the arrest. Okay. I planned on doing locals tonight. I wanted to do the first stream aftermath gay BS, but I'm not really feeling it. I'm sorry. I'll do something tomorrow. Right now, I'm just drained and effing tired. Again, 1 million people will have a whole slew of opinions about me and everything. That's fine. They earned it. They don't know the story. They can't, but they get their opinions. But they get their opinions. They're allowed to have them. Is what it's saying. And I deserve my public lashing. I asked people to focus on me and my failures and leave other people allegedly involved out of it. That's what I was saying about like family and other things. You can see the trigger points in this. And again, they're understandable. Talk about me. Don't talk about my kids. Don't talk about my wife. Don't talk about other people. That's where I think your responses have come from. And again, that's why he cannot look at this stuff right now, because people are not going, the internet is going to be like, oh, that's a place he'll respond. It's just how they are. When it's grifting time, I'll tell you shitty jail stories or quote unquote the good parts about having your house searched stories. I want to be jovial and optimistic for those things because they can be funny and self-deprecating. Tonight I don't feel jovial. Peace, y'all. Talk soon. That'd be very stupid, by the way. So, then you had, let's see. You had a message come up on the, let's see, give me 1 minute here. I'm pulling up something. Are they not all here? I'm trying to see if, he actually put one up about, give me 1 second. I got to find one real quick. There's one missing. I think he took one down. He's also been on Instagram arguing with people in commentary. That's not good. Like, here was the thing. Like that's where it gets really bad, okay? That's where it gets really bad because he's talking about, he's arguing with the people that sport. It's just like, so Kiwi Farms has come up a lot. I want to clarify something. I saw the Keno Casino thing, by the way. Props to you. Warski, I've known for a long time. Like, I don't know, but Warski helped me out when I started out. So props to him. I appreciate him. But I heard Megan Fox brought in there with blaming Kiwi Farms. I think that was an emotional reaction that was not stated well. Like for me, I'll blame Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms is not responsible for Nick's drug use or anything else. And I don't think anybody else blames that too. Kiwi Farms, in fact, first of all, anybody can use a site. So can there be people? Sure. But I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. I want to get it correct here. I think a lot of people that were there were trying to tell him to pull up. That was the meme, right? Pull up, pull up, pull up. And they were charting this decline. And yeah, you can call it anything. You can call it shaming or whatever, but it's the same thing that I think Rekieta would do too. I think he would shame people and the fat shaming or whatever. I mean, it's the same thing. I think it was just there was reality to it, and I don't think that was bad, just to be honest. I think that was okay looking at this. In fact, maybe there should have been more. Here, I found this one. I didn't see the I'm not suicidal. Maybe that's not up there still. Okay, I'm clipping this. Sorry. I had to dig this up. Give me a minute. It took me a minute to find this. So, like I said, give me a minute. I'm clipping it and everything. I saw where somebody had posted it. This guy's, because there are a lot of people that were concerned. I was concerned. When I saw his post, I was like, oh my God, is he talking about offing himself possibly? I was like, holy God, no, no. Does anybody know him? Do they know he's okay? Because I was worried about that, But the first post was to the real ones, to the fake ones. And then there was a I'm not suicidal. So I'll put that one in. I'll have to show you between these. But again, I hated the focus to be on, like, noted with Kiwi, because I don't think anybody blames any of these sites. Anybody. Again, that's the person who did this. I just think a lot of people were talking because they're upset. There's a lot of upset people. I was pissed off, if I'm being like honest about it. I was pissed off at Nick. I was pissed off because he won't listen to anybody. Maybe he is now, but he wouldn't at first. I was really mad about that. I was mad because you don't just do this for you do it for yourself too. Like I want to know at the end of the day, I'm old enough in my life to have buried people that I care about. I've had my own problems, and everybody that I had problems with, like, there's just a couple of them left. Just a couple. And, one of them's not in very good shape at all. The others are either in jail or, they're dead. And they're dead from substances and everything else. And I would much rather seem like an absolute asshole or whatever else. I would rather scream on Twitter and in videos and call out people than to bury another friend. Because, at the end of the day, it sucks either way, man. But that shit haunts you. I like to sleep well after it. I'm not going to sleep very well if it happens anyway, but I'd like to know that I did everything possible. So anyway, this statement. I don't mean to be doom and gloom on that, but for real. I mean, we were to that point, I feel like. I got to relight my cigar. Talk too much. It takes forever to light this thing. I got one of these big fat freaking cigars, and this thing takes forever. It's like lighting a chair leg. So there was to the real ones, thanks. To the fake ones, I get it. I don't know what that means. Again, I would hope that when Nick is clear-minded, he can understand that anybody talking about this, so many people have been concerned about him. So that doesn't make you a fake friend. In fact, I got so irritated the other day. I saw all these one-offs. This is why I don't blame Kiwi Farms, because I see all these one-offs. I see all your so-called fucking friends. What are they doing? I know some of them are really working hard behind the scenes, but some of these fuckers that are supposed to be your friends when you're dying online, they put out oh man, hate to see that. Hope you get everything right. Is your fucking friend? No. Like I said, I'd rather be a dick and everything else. So with Kiwi, you know what? I kind of agree with him. Yell, scream, fuck it. Until he gets everything together, scream at him, yell at him. I mean, I do agree with that. I'm to that point, too. It frustrates me. When I'm seeing posts online, I'm mad. It got to me the other day, and I went on like a posting binge, and I'm trying to just cover what's happening. But, so anyway, brief message. To those merely watching, every life is a show. Some just have fortune or misfortune of having an audience at times. May you all find peace in your life. Be encouraged and not discouraged. Hold fast to the people who actually care. Believe me, you'll know. See y'all soon. Now the way that sounded, I don't know. When I saw it, I was like, that doesn't sound good. That actually sounds. So I asked a few people. I was like, did you see that message? Is it just me? Does that sound suicidal potentially? I mean, again, it says see y'all soon, but it's very down, right? And this subject should feel like that to you. I don't know. So then this came up. I'm not suicidal. Smollett.gif, just FYI. Heard my last post was a little suicidal sounding. I apologize for that. My last post was hopeful, not suicidal. Good, The world has stuck with me a while longer. So I'm glad you got clarification on that. Again, stop posting. But then you had another one today. So, again, this is why, if I seem frustrated, the reason I'm noting this is because if I seem frustrated, I'm like, dude, get off fucking line, man. Get your shit right, Like, this ain't good for you. No, this is good for you. Give me 1 second. I have a 4-year-old. See, I'm a father, too. And as a father, my kids here, like, that's what, it bothers me, And that was one of the things that I liked about Nick. And I like about Nick, that family. That's one of the things that mattered there. Sorry, I'm opening they had to do some stuff, and they got an ice cream treat. You got your ice cream here?
Yeah, ice cream tree.
All right, take your ice cream, baby.
Ice cream is the best.
I know it is, isn't it?
I know how to open ice cream, honey.
Well, why'd you bring it to me if you want to open it?
But
this one was hard to open. It was hard. I'm still opening it.
The last one, but it was hard.
Yeah, it was difficult. Here, hold it at the bottom. You got it? Yeah. Oh, you want me to pull it all the way up?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, don't drip it, okay?
I won't.
Sorry, she's brought me this ice cream that is, I guess it's it's supposed to be really secure, I suppose. But man, it's like opening a freaking mousetrap. I mean, it's like building the better human mousetrap. I'm like, man, does this thing ever open? There you go. Take it upstairs now. Hey, will you close my door too?
Why do you want the door closed every time?
So that I don't hear everything that happens upstairs. It's easier for me too. Okay? Love you. Okay. Love you.
Love you.
All right. Be good. Okay. Sorry about that. Yep. I mean, that's one of the things, I relate to that. You see a person even before I had talked to Nick or anything else, that one of the things that concerned me was because, again, he's got kids and everything, and they're not window dressing. They matter. And I'm not saying he thinks that. I'm just like, my kids come in and out here because I don't lock them out of my life. Like, if they need something, they come to me. I'm the one taking care of them. So, while I'm doing work here, and this is work, that counts as work, that's also something too. I've seen people talking lately about how hard this stuff is, like looking at when things blow up. Yeah, it's public when it blows up, but you know what? This is the easiest fucking job ever. Man, I've hung tobacco, I've thrown hay, put up barns. I've done all this stuff. I worked in a plastics factory for years. I well, not telemark. I worked for a bank call-in. That sucked, by the way. It was actually a horrible job. A lot of coffee. But, then mental health and other stuff. And I have to say that it's a blessing. When shit blows up, like if you have like it comes with some ugly moments every now and then, but we're fortunate. And with Nick, I hope he gets everything together and he gets it back. It can't go back to what he was before. He'll be another thing, but he could be a powerful testimony to people. He'd be very powerful testimony. So here's the last one. It came up. A new live chat. Hey, old chat is old. Here's a new one because I probably buried the old one. Lady R and I are doing okay at the moment. Thanks for the well wishes. There's a lot to be said and a lot being said that should be addressed at some point. Let me say this. Stories are always more complicated than they sound. Life is always more complex than it looks. Online chatter must, however, take a back seat to my current legal matters. Fuck yeah. So get offline and stop chattering. Thank you for believing in me, or at least supporting while you watch this unfold. I'll be doing a stream soon, but it probably won't be today. I'll just keep posting updates as appropriate. Again, see you soon. Juicy, not self-delete.gif. Again, making it clear, he's not self-deleting. So, that one at least sounds better than the other stuff. But I mean, comparatively, going on Instagram and arguing with people, like, that's not good, man. Again, you can, I'm sure that, I mean, the Instagram stuff was kind of ridiculous too. And, you're not in your right mind when you're doing this either. Obviously, 100% not in your right mind. I mean, how could you be? Give me a second. Let me see if I can find that. I don't know if I have that Instagram stuff. If I do, I do. Actually, I know who posted it. Give me 1 minute. I think Ethan Ralph posted it. I think what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to get. I'm wondering. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I'm wondering with that lady that came out that was arrested too. I saw the comment she made, and I'm like, dude, you better get yourself in gear, because I think somebody's going to get blamed for doing this, and it's not going to be good. So, I mean, this was an Instagram comment, for example. Check this out here. So, these are real, by the way. I checked them. I went in and looked, I wish I could express what people... now, this is, I think, yesterday. It's a long weekend, so it's running together. I'm losing Saturday and Sunday. Those days are running together for me. Oh, let's see, 26. Actually, it was yesterday. Never mind. I can look here. Duh. Well, I don't remember if it was posted that night or, why I mentioned that. It came up real early in the morning, so I'm not sure. But obviously, you can't talk about my case yet. However, confirmation bias makes people, quote unquote, see something they didn't actually see. Y'all saw something else, and I wish I could tell you more about it. I hope to God that's a deflection over what's going on in the private life. I hope that's not saying I wasn't really fucked up on that stream. 'Cause, yeah, I what I'm afraid of is this isn't rock bottom. I hope it is. I hope it is. Nick, I hope it is. I mean, again, online friendships are odd. Man, I love my online friends. Nick helped a lot of people too. Nick helped me. Like when I had people that wanted to falsely go after me and my kids, Nick helped me. I was not a big channel. There was not a lot of positive in it for him. He could have been like, that sucks, and gone on about his business, but he didn't. Put me in contact with somebody. They called and got them to go away, because it was fake. They just they cleared all that up, and it didn't It didn't cause me a problem. And I appreciate the shit out of that. He didn't monetize. He didn't do anything with it. Never mentioned it again. I'm the one who mentioned it. Never mentioned it. And I appreciate that. And that's what frustrates me. Because you want to help somebody. And you know they have to help themselves. They have to get to the point. They have to hit rock bottom. But man, rock bottom sometimes isn't losing everything. Rock bottom is sometimes losing everything. And that I don't want to see that. I don't. I know some people, I've seen people discuss that and say they do. I think that's horrible. You know, again, you can have your own opinions on anything, but I think that's terrible. You know, I don't root for if somebody destroys themselves, that's one thing. I don't root for the destruction of other people, though. So, you know. But anyway, y'all saw something. I do appreciate love and support. I actually think this may remedy the other issue in time as well. Peace and blessings to you. You know, and you see people are like, hey, man, you're in complete denial, dude. What is going on? Stop it. Like, check yourself into rehab. Like, what's going on, man? Don't fight with people on Instagram. That's not smart, my friend. And it's not. I said, I don't think that's asinine to say. I think that's fair, you know? And, you know, there was some people were laughing about an own, you know, because this was an online, you know, my mom says you're her boyfriend. She loves you dearly. Just had to let you know. And he's like, oh, tell her I said hi and thanks. And you made her day. You know, hey, that's, you know, great. This is an old thing. And then, you know, you could see, again, you see the time there, you know, it's just, you know, just to let you know, just so you know, I haven't changed. Maybe some obstacles have fallen on the path. But I'm still me in here. And somebody, you know, responded. Of course, there's going to be a lot of this stuff. She's not going to F you just because you now spent a night in jail, brah. And he was like, that sounds like virgin talk, fam. You know, so he's fine with people online. And again, you know, that's normally that'd be funny. Like there were people like, haha, that's funny. But it's not. It's not helping. It's not helping. Like, this is not the time. I get that. Like, DTs suck. Like, if he's Jones, you know, I mean, I don't know where he is there. Hopefully, if he's home right now, I don't wish DTs on anybody, but at the same time, I mean, I wish them on him in this because he's got to be clean. He's got to. He's got to be clean. So, if you're going through that, I realize sitting around, that sucks and everything else, you know. But the internet is not going to lead you to a positive place. It's going to lead you to a bad place. I've already been there. You know, everything is up. Everything is up from there. That's the way to look at it. So I want to read you the document that's been discussed here. I cut out the address off of it. I made sure there wasn't anything else I was supposed to cut off of this. 1 second. I mean, again, this doesn't have all the information on the statement of probable cause. This was what was discussed by Viva, which I'm going to pull up that discussion. But first, I want to put the document in front of you, okay? And I want to read it to you. So, okay. Whoop, that's the wrong one. There it is. Okay. So, again, it has people's names in it. They're already very public. So, I cut the address, even though that's public too. I cut the address off of it. So, he tells, you know, licensed peace officer, da-da-da. So, on the 23rd, 9/13, search warrant was executed at, we're going to say Nick's house. They have the, you know, Nick and wife, they reside there. Law enforcement approached the residence. Nick was driving southbound in a vehicle. He was stopped by law enforcement. Then, knocking on the door, you have a juvenile female. So again, you know, when I read this at first, when I read about this in the news and online, they made this sound like an adult female. You know, one place did. One place didn't, but one place did. And that's got to be horrifying for your kids. You know, this has got to be a horrifying situation because you have you know, you have a bunch of police officers. They pop up. They want inside your home, and the juvenile female, opens the door and won't let them in. The juvenile female's like, no, can't come in. So Nick would not provide the door code to enter the residence. Law enforcement, then they enter utilizing a door ram. So they take the door down. Now, upon entry into the home, law enforcement, they locate Nick's wife. They locate the other woman again. I am, for the sake of this, and some people have laughed and messaged me and like, "What's up, man?" Like, that's not it. But I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna call them live-in nanny. Now, if you're like live-in nanny, hey man, I'm not getting into all that. Okay, it's just I'm gonna call them live-in nanny. Again, you fill in that blank. However, but that is not pertinent to the discussion here. So, wife, live-in nanny, and 4 juveniles are in the home. Now, this next part, there's been a lot of discussion about why this next part's here. You know, the office, they're like, oh man, these officers, oh, they did this because, you know, they're just trying to be asinine. They put this in here for CPS. That's what that's for. They're talking about the condition of the home. That is why the, you know, I actually saw 3 or 4 lawyers. This is what you, I mean, again, until I see, there's been a lot of discussion, was this set up? You know, like these details they seem like. I don't know anything about what this police officer has done in the past, but this is what they do. They give cause for any charge whatsoever. And again, like this is just, again, trying to back up the idea. The house is extremely cluttered. All right, now that's a terrible definition of it. Again, they'd have to flesh that out more. Clothes everywhere, so the fuck what? Dirty dishes, man, you know. Dust, oh, okay. An overall dirty home. Now, again, I've seen a lot made of that. That would have to be that'd be expanded upon. But I firmly believe that the reason that's there, because I've seen that before. You know, when you go in and you look at records where juveniles are taken out of homes. I've seen quite a few. It's very traumatic, by the way. Like I said, I'm not approaching this from the law point. After the fact, there are a few things that happen. You have your lawyers that you call. But also your kids, they end up either voluntarily, by you put them in therapy, or the state will require you put them in therapy, or the state will take them and they will put them in therapy. Now, in this case, the kids are not taken, thank God. That's good. They're, you know, you never want a kid going in the system. That also pisses me off. Like in a situation like this, kids going to the system are worst thing. I can't tell you how many are. I worked with kids for years. I worked with kids that have been through the worst shit you can ever imagine. And I stopped doing it because I couldn't do it anymore. It broke something in me. Like I couldn't turn off you got to be, as a therapist, you got to be a stone wall. And man, I would tear up. You know, it broke. And it's because the reason I say that is because if the story is that traumatic, these things that are happening are that traumatic to adults. Imagine how traumatic they are to kids. Oh, I've got another. She's coming down the steps. Give me a second.
That light bulb.
Thank you very much for bringing me that light bulb.
It is.
Yes, I'm going to put it over here where it is very safe and out of the way, okay?
And I get my yo-yo sapper.
All right, take that upstairs.
What's a sapper?
Give me 5.
What's
Good job.
a sapper?
That's a stamper. You can take it out. Ask Sissy how it works and stuff, okay?
Okay.
All right. But you can take it upstairs. All right, love you. Did you eat all that ice cream?
Yeah.
All right, you did. If there's any left, throw the remainder in the trash, okay? Don't put it on the floor or anything.
And I put in trash.
Okay, good job. Give me 5. Good job. Yeah, good job. All right, go upstairs.
Did you hear
Love
that?
you.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was good.
hear that?
Did I do that?
No, hear something.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I did. I thought you said, did I do that? I was like, do what? All right. Close that door up for me, okay? When you closed it up, you did very good last time, and I couldn't hear anything from up there. So you did very good. Thank you. Love you.
Love
All right. Again, apologies, but I don't close my door to them, and they're, again, it's just how life is, But like I was saying too, you imagine, like, again, a little bitty kid, like I've heard stories from 7-year-olds about that. Like, I would just make you sick, and like I said, you imagine the trauma that this puts kids through. It's horrible. It's rough, and with a little kid, little kids luckily can forget trauma fairly quickly. With work, explanation, like anything can go away. As the kid is, when they're older though, like these things stick with them. And again, if law enforcement is battering down your door, that's, whew. Like, I'm not getting into the discussion of, there's been discussion of law enforcement overreach versus, I'm not even getting into that. I'm just saying this is a tragic fucking situation. It's horrible. And here's the other thing, with the lawyers that have been talking about this, they're like, well, this may or may not have, there may be constitutional issues here. You don't want to be a constitutional test case, especially if you're going up against CPS. CPS is, again, they will do everything in their power. Police will, judicial system will. They'll do everything in their power to be right. Even if you are right, spending how many years fighting and stuff, maybe you are right. I do know. Again, I know this for a fact. I can see it. Nick was not in a good place. I could see it there. You cannot be there all the way like you should be. Again, I'm not trying to criticize parent or anything. I don't feel like I'm overstepping in saying this. If you're that way, your kids see you that way. They remember that, and you just can't be there all the time. And this stuff, if they would have knocked the door down and there would have been no question, well, we'd be having a different discussion. Like, we're discussing hypotheticals these days because there look to be issues. And again, innocent until proven, absolutely. But we saw, like, there's a problem there. And that problem has to be noticed and witnessed. Has to be. And we may not ever know the whole story, like Nick said. But the parts that we saw are tragic. So anyway, door ram. 4 juveniles in the home, mess. So Nick comes in. Why talk to the cops, by the way? I mean, we're talking about, like, never trust the government. I realize he clarified, hey, I sleep in this. And, I get there's some, I don't know. Anyway, he returns in the home, law enforcement. He demands a copy of the search warrant. When he's given a copy, he looks at it and throws it on the ground. He's like, fuck this, I it was Scarlet again. You're like, fuck this. Now, during the search, here's what's found, okay? So the following items are allegedly found. I'm going to go with that. Alleged. Again, like I said, normally I wouldn't have had this problem when I look at stuff, but I know this person. And I know they have a problem. And again, one is not the other. One is not the cops busting in your door. I don't trust the police. I mean, fuck, come on, man. I don't trust, overall, I don't trust what they, having said that, I know there's an issue. And it'll be interesting to see what is or isn't argued, weight. Or again, you can argue weight. Here's what is what's an ounce? 28 grams, is that correct? Let me see, how many grams are in an ounce? Grams in an ounce. Grams in an ounce. I can't remember. 28.35, right? Okay. So with the number here, yes, 28. Yeah, thank y'all. It caught up. So yeah, 28. So when you're looking at this, people were like, why is this specific? Maybe bought an ounce, Maybe that's what you're seeing there. Maybe bought an O. I don't think this, there's been a lot of discussion on resale. Man, listen, I've been there, done that, seen that way back when. Never when I had family. My kids have been the best thing of my life ever because they're a wake up call to not have problems in my life. They've been, and thank God for that. But when people were talking about like reselling, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Oh, dude, you do some crazy like having a scale. There's gonna be a scale listed here. Having a scale, like the police may try to be nasty about this, but having a scale, you don't want to get ripped off. You measure out dosages of certain things if you're doing them. There's all kinds of reasons to have a scale. Little baggies. Well, if you have multiple people using, or maybe you've broken it off into days, because when you get on a bender, man, you'll use everything. So you're like, here's the thing with cocaine too. Have you ever watched somebody neurotically? Have you ever seen the movie Lord of War? When our main guy, Nicolas Cage, goes and finds his brother, he is taking like an insane amount of cocaine, right? And he's making little maps and stuff with his cocaine. Like he's doing all this stuff because he's tweaking. You do all kinds of like little, Roddy, you get insanely invested in something. So if I do multiple baggies, that could be anything. You could have bought like in multiple. I don't know. But that doesn't scream resale to me. I know there were a lot of people like, oh my God, is that? No. Come on, man. That did it. You could have gone outside the house and been like, hey, I'm taking this with me. That's a sign of full-blown addiction, by the way. If you're toting with you toting your nose candy around with you. But you got to have that booger sugar, man. If you're in the moment, you got to have the booger sugar. You got to have that booger sugar. So anyway, yellow snort tube. I'm going to say that's a straw. Snort tube. Does he got like a... Like, I was wondering, like, does that mean a straw or is that like a little metal pipe? I'm just trying to think, like, at what point do you start calling it a snort tube? Like I call a snorkel. I call a straw. So is this something like, you're like, well, that's that little thing. Yeah, that's because people, they'll get the weirdest thing. Like, this is the thing that cracks me up about like addict thinking. It's sad, but it's true too. Like addicts, they get into it and they'll be like, yeah, I use enough. You can tell a real addict when they have a specific thing that is just for snorting cocaine. It serves no other purpose. It's not chopping off little fucking pieces of straws or rolling up dollars anymore. It's having a snort tube, whatever you call it. So I'm wondering, is that there or is it just a straw? I don't know. But they say it tests positive for cocaine. It's just weird. Tampon applicator. Oh my God. Yeah, from the depth trial. Oh my God. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, by the way. At least there's not a tampon applicator. Hopefully not. If it was, oh my God. That happened like I said, in the Depp case. There was a tampon applicator for snorting coke. I was like, what the fuck? Why? You think you're like clever and undercover, but what is that? So at least that's not on here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe they were like, is that a snort tube? I don't know. It's not funny, but it just makes me wonder. Anyway. Black vial with white substance. Inside, it tests positive for cocaine. It weighs 2.2 grams, Now, to put that in perspective, when people watch movies, most people, if you've never been around drugs or anything, you know drugs from movies. So when people go out and they buy, unless they're buying ridiculous amounts of drugs, when they're running around with like a night or a weekend, when they go to hook up, they're typically buying it by the 8 ball. The 8-ball is 3.5 grams. All right, so that gives you an idea. You know, it's not an insane amount. But at the same time, cocaine ain't like going out and buying an ounce of weed, you know. I mean, every little bit of this, it's going, you know where it's going. So, you also have credit cards listed to, again, I'm going to use the term live-in nanny. Now, again, all of this stuff is, it says, located in the master bedroom near the nightstand. So it's right there, near the nightstand, you know, all of that stuff. And then you have, now the .22 caliber is interesting. Because why does this matter? Does it belong to some? I mean, yeah, you know, I got a box of old shell casings that set around. I have a few sitting on my desk here where we went out. Here we're unincorporated. We're in the middle of the South. Like, I can walk out my back door and shoot my gun over here into a berm. I can just walk outside. You know, I mean, it's that casual. You know, it is a gun culture. So I have shell casings that are sitting around. So when I see this, and .22 caliber, I'm wondering, like, wait, what's the purpose or point there? I'm wondering, I bet there is they didn't note bullet holes in the walls or anything. So I'm going to guess there's probably a simple, and again, these things are just added on after the fact. You know, you have the right to have a firearm and ammo until. So I just, you know, people have made a big deal out of that. That's one of the reasons I want to cover some of this stuff too, because when people bring it up, they're like, oh my God, did you see the shell casings, bullets? And like, there's nothing that's talking about bullet holes. There's nothing there at all. So, you know, that's just crazy speculation. Now, the following item was located underneath the bed in the master bedroom. It's a 6-hour AR, several magazines, and loose ammunition. Now, I've seen people talk about that too. Dude, again, I live in the U.S. South, and for them not to have, you know, like you'd be like, man, this is like a gun grocery store. You know, most people, if they raided somebody out here. So having a firearm is not, I mean, if I'm out in public, I'm strapped. I'm sitting here, I've got a firearm close by in case there's a problem. Because ultimately, you know, the police clean up issues. You know, they'll help you out. So most people that own that, that's your right. You know, until, and again, innocent until proven guilty. The following item was located in the master bedroom dresser. There's a glass container with a metal filter and grinder, and a glass container that field tested positive for cocaine. So they got a grinder. They're filtering down. I'm wondering with this. I'm wondering if, you know, what it worried me with this too. If indeed this is his, so I'll just go with that because, you know, if indeed we're testing for fentanyl. Fentanyl's scary stuff, you know. That nowadays, I hate that they even call it fentanyl. It's just some like super drug that idiots make to spike everything these days. And it takes nothing to hurt somebody. But I wonder, like, was he, you know, did you have high quality stuff and you were cutting it? You know, that would make it last longer, by the way. That makes it last a lot longer if you cut it. You know, what exactly are you doing with it? I don't know. The following items were, fentanyl kills, indeed. There was a lot of, with freebase, that's a guess, like freebasing. Like, again, that is not. Now, freebase, you know, here's the thing with smoking cocaine. People think, too, oh, you got to find and again, I'm not saying he did this, okay? I'm just noting this. People think you got to find a pipe or something, right? You realize, like, people smoke cocaine or meth or other things, they don't necessarily smoke it off a pipe. In fact, it's a lot easier to smoke off of something. One of the things that a lot of people would do back in the day is they take a light bulb. They crack a light bulb, like an old one. They take the bottom part, where it makes a little dish. They clean it all out. They find something to hold it with, and they put whatever in it, and they, cook it. Like they burn it down and have like a straw or whatever. They suck up the smoke that way. So, when people die, they're like, oh man, would you find something? No, but again, I don't. That's speculation. You don't know. You don't know what people are doing. Everything that's said here, we don't know about use types. They find dollar bills rolled up and stuff, so they're snorting. And I heard the live stream. I feel fairly confident in saying there was substances being used that day. Again, I don't feel like that's idle gossip. I think if you watched that live stream, powder on the nose, disappearing for long amounts of time, that kind of energy, like that. I mean, and how things just get bizarre over time. So anyway, following items were located in a safe in the master bathroom. A bag with cards and a dollar bill. So you got your rolled up dollar bill, tested positive for cocaine. A large corner cut baggie with white powder. A corner cut baggie, by the way, that's the way people roll up stuff. If you're wondering what that means, if you take a baggie and you lay it out, right? You lay it out perfectly in order to twist it up and to make sure you don't lose anything. Because, this stuff sticks to plastics. In fact, at the end of a binge, a lot of people will, they'll chew the bag to make sure you don't lose anything. They end up chewing. You'll see people they'll go to town on it. But they'll take the edge of the baggie and they'll cut off the edge of the baggie and wrap it up. So they pour everything to that edge. It all sets in there, and then you clip it and roll it. That way you don't lose anything. You can corner cut, and you can have a lot that way, depending, again, corner cutting. Body to the bag, yeah. That's the way you buy, because you can tell that's what it looks like, because you have so much weight in that bag. Again, speculation. If this were indeed there, I'm going to say there was probably an ounce. That's my guess. Unless, I don't know. You could have a lot more at one time. My real issue with all of this was my real problem when looking at this. It frustrates me. Everybody and their mama, and publicly everywhere, was saying that when that live stream happened, that there would be a knock on that door. It wasn't an if, it was a when. And it was probably going to come sooner rather than later. You knew that was going to happen. You absolutely knew that was going to happen. So, again, hindsight is 20/20. But everybody was like, whoa, man, if there's anything in that house, better get rid of it. This is not good. You need to clean up, Oh. But addicts don't do that either. If this is indeed his. I'm trying to get that in my head. Like I say, when I look at it, I know somebody has a problem. God, I'm not a lawyer. Like these lawyers think like a lawyer. I'm not a fucking lawyer, man. I'm a person that picks up all the fucking pieces when you destroy your life. I'm the guy you come to the clinics that many of us work at, Like we're the people that see the shattering. We see the shattered pieces, and we hope we can put them all together and make people again. And it's horrible. I don't wish it on anybody. No back pat in that either. I'm not saying anything like, ooh, me. I'm just saying, I'm not. One of the people, I've worked in that for a while. Anyway. Small baggies, 3 small baggies, my bad. The field tested positive for cocaine and weighed 5.49 grams with packaging. Again, packaging, you've got to take that into consideration. They were talking about weight reduction, like right there. You know, if you've got vials and baggies and everything else, like all of that is weighed in. 5.49 grams. Again, 3 baggies. We don't know how they're distributed. It's not... I'm not saying any of this is not a lot of cocaine. What I'm trying to say is 3 baggies being found and stuff other places. You know, again, I've seen this resale talk over and over, and that's the addict brain. The addict brain is always about more and conservation. I gotta have more tomorrow. What about 5 days from now? Am I gonna have enough for 5 days from now? You know, if only, and it never works out, by the way, because you're just like, well, I do have enough for 5 days from now. So, you know, it won't matter if I dip into that a little bit, but there's always a plan, you know, there's always this stupid fucking plan that never works out, you know, because again, you're dealing with people, they have one driving thing typically. When you get up to that point, they usually have a real problem. When you're buying, if you're buying by the, I also saw somebody who was like, well, if this is all true, maybe it's living remotely and you got to go hook up, so you buy a bunch. Well, if you're buying in bulk, that's a sign of addiction, you know. You know, it's not like we're going to Sam's Club here. If I'm approaching the local drug dealer and I'm like, yo, can you hook me up with enough to, I don't know, get me through 2 weeks, you know, of constant use, that's a problem. And if you're like, maybe actually it might not have been 2 weeks, maybe, you know, a couple of days. Well, that's a real problem too. If you're like, hey, I need I need eight balls, that's a lot too. And then you have 8 green color tablets that field tested positive for ketamine. Now, we had discussions with ketamine. There have been a lot of talks about that, you know, so there, the digital scale, so many people have made a huge deal about the scale. I think Warski was the one person, like, I know everybody that was like, that's not really a big deal. You know, a lot of, as far as this, all of it's a big deal. I don't want to minimize. He wasn't saying that's not a big deal, as in all of it is a big deal if this is here. But it's not saying you're selling. Because again, you know, if there's Molly or whatever which was being discussed, anything, like if you got to measure out dosages. People, again, make sure they're not getting ripped off. They weigh out for other folks. Like, hey, here's you some. Yeah, you want some? Here you go. I'm giving you a blah, blah, blah amount. You know, and again, addict brain. The addict brain. Yeah, that's what, who was that? Groves Russell, yeah, you're like, you know, anybody that's in that position, they do. If they've gotten to that point, that is kind of that's usually a sign of you're doing this a while too. You know, because the first thing you do when you're getting something is you don't go to the scale. You know what I mean? That's not the first idea that you have. You refine it over time. Like I said, I've had my own, you know, in the past, long ago. I don't use anything. That's why when people talk about that, I don't. That's why I clarify. I smoke a cigar. You can say that's addictive, sure, but I'm talking about other stuff that will impair. I hate that argument because it's like, yeah, I've got kids, and I know what impairs my ability, and I don't do anything that is going to impair my ability. Like if my kid had a problem right now. Like, oh my God, there's a problem, there's an accident, I got to go right now, I got to drive to the hospital. I'm going to be able to do that. And, you know, I could take my cigar. They'd probably be pissy if I took it in, obviously. But, you know, I could forget and have it in my mouth or something. And, you know, that's not a problem. It's not going to impair my driving or anything else. So I think people are being a little disingenuous with that. You know, and there's been the argument too of every substance should be legal. That's some hypothetical oddity. And also, I saw people like every home has dangerous implements. And that's very true. You know, here's the thing though. This stuff, whew. I mean, this shit, it's terrifying. I hope with stuff found in safes and everything, I hope to God that, you know, everything would be away from any type of a child. Because this is, I mean, these are, that's why you get into that conversation. And lawyers, again, are like, kids, you know. Well, you can see why this would be considered not good. I mean, you do understand that. You can turn off law brain for a minute. I realize you look at technicalities. And again, I'm not being a dick saying this. I'm just like, you can understand why this is perceived as an issue, right? I mean, surely. I mean, we sit around and argue about the items to it forever, but. And we have a metal pan with white powder on it. The test is positive for cocaine. 2 snort tubes, 2 metal cutters. Metal cutters? Are you talking about like box cutters? Is that where they're chopping? Is that what they, you know? I mean, a lot of times you won't have a person have a free-range razor blade. Like oftentimes you would have a person like, they could keep a razor blade in a box cutter. I've seen people do it that way because you can just pop a box cutter. Like you just open it and it has all the extras. Like most of them will hold 5 razor blades in them, and they'll have a razor blade in the front. You know, they're easy access. Chop, 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 chop. You know, make sure to knock it down. And the snort tubes, they test positive for cocaine. Now, give me a second. I got to pull there's another page. Give me 1 minute. I'm just rolling this over here. Making sure there's nothing I don't want to show on that. I realize all these documents are very public too, but yeah. All right, here's the second part. Following items were located in a safe in the master bedroom closet. There's a $100 bill, white powder residue, test positive for cocaine. A bent white bag with white powder substance, field test positive for cocaine. There's a cocaine scooper. When does a scooper become a cocaine scooper? I guess if it's found in a baggie with? I mean, like here's a question I have. So it doesn't say that it was found in a baggie. It doesn't say that it tested positive. So when does a scooper become a cocaine scooper? You know what I mean? Like when does that? Yeah, like if I'm looking through a safe, if there, I don't know what's in the safe, but if there are other items in there, I mean, is it laid out a specific way? Or does it, just because it's there, does it magically become a cocaine scooper? I'm curious about that. Like, when does that, and that's, if you find it with that, yeah, that's probably its intent, but, yeah, when does scooper become cocaine scooper? 2 baggies with a baggie with a funnel and an unknown brown substance. Now, there was discussion about the brown substance. Like, what is that? Again, we don't know. Could that be Molly? You know? I mean, we don't know. We have no idea. But there was discussion. The reason I say Molly is because there's a bunch of discussion about Molly in this. So, additional firearms, ammunition located in the garage. Total amount measurable cocaine, master bedroom, 26.67 grams with packaging. Look at that, 28 ounce. Cocaine, Schedule 2. Ketamine, Schedule 1. So the detective talks to Nick outside the residence. He's Mirandized, and he agrees to speak to the officers without counsel, which is dumb as fuck. And you may be like, hey, Rekieta, he's a lawyer. But, I mean, if you're an addict, even if you're functional at the moment. You know, it does make me think maybe that's not a good idea. Just not a good idea, period. Even if the smartest people, they outsmart themselves sometimes. I think that's a fair message, right? So he speaks without counsel. He indicates that he sleeps in the master bedroom with his wife. He indicated that the live-in nanny actually was not a live-in nanny, but was home visiting. Okay. Was at the home visiting, rather. So they're both placed under arrest. While being placed under arrest, the detective here notes several injuries to the arms of Nick that appear consistent with sores that are common with controlled substance users. Now, this is the one thing I will, like I said, I don't want to get into the other person, the Aaron that talked about all this. There's one item though, like with this. He said he had not observed any IV drug use. He said that was probably consistent with picking. And that happens. I saw a girl one time that was chewing her lip while smoking, I think it was cocaine. It was either cocaine or meth. But she had been doing this, and she had been chewing the inside of her lip, just picking at it with her teeth. She'd been doing that, though, for almost 42 hours. So by the end of it, her lip, she had chewed it so badly that after stopping, her lip had swollen up so big, it looked like, she looked like a professional boxer. It was bad, because people pick. They do that. It's just, they scratch, they pick. So that's one thing I would note. And for myself, when I first read this, in a live stream, I did not say that it was. But when I was talking about it on Twitter, I was like, that's what, and then I thought about that, and I was like, that's really jumping to a conclusion. So that was me jumping to a conclusion, and that's wrong. You shouldn't say, again, it's bad enough. You can see where those conclusions come from, but my God, like IV drugs, like shooting is another level of addict. Like, I don't want to call any addict hopeless, but I'm going to say that people that fail the most in recovery have gotten to those types of stages. So I hope to God that was not a stage for anybody that was potentially involved. Because, like I said, when you get to that point, man, it's hard to break there. So transported. Wife doesn't speak to the officers. When they get there, Nick, he gets Mirandized again. He agrees to speak. He refused to answer any questions regarding cocaine or controlled substances. That, at least, was smart. He did indicate he lives in the residence. He stays in the master bedroom with his wife. The live-in nanny is not a live-in nanny, by the way. I'm just going to say. I should have said visiting nanny, I guess, going off of this. My bad. Who was visiting. I did not live at the residence. When being booked into jail, the wife requested that her prescription medication be brought to her. Upon reviewing the prescription bottles for her that were brought to jail, the jail staff, they found 2 unknown pills and gummies in one of the prescription bottles. Now, these items did not... Goodness, you scared me. You came flying up those stairs. What?
I changed my shirt.
Oh, yeah, I love that shirt. Dad is my raw. Man, that's a cute shirt. Is that me and you hanging out?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. Well, hey, go upstairs for a little while. Like, what I'm reading is some crazy stuff. So,
What is it?
I can't tell you about it. Yeah, but we'll read a book later on tonight, okay?
Can we watch a movie at night?
Yeah, we can watch a movie. That'd be great.
And can we play a game?
Maybe. We'll see, okay? I'll let you play
Let's play the shoe game. It might be when you be blue.
Okay. All right. Well, upstairs, and we'll later we'll play the game on the Switch.
I said shooter game.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. That game. We'll play that game then. Okay. Shut the door.
When you be blue.
Okay. All right. She loves the microphone. She's like, I want to see that too. I'm like, oh, we can't talk about this today. So anyway, these items, they did not match the prescriptions on the bottle. So when they brought them in, I don't know. There's been a lot of talk about that too. I was like, I don't know what that means exactly. Like if there's a mistake, I don't know. So let's just say mistake because there's nothing else added there. So then they add the notice. So anyway, there was discussion about this. Give me 1 second. This actually came up with, again. Okay, so Barnes ends up talking. So you have lawyers here discuss this specific document. I'm locking it in. Give me a second. Making sure that Rumble is broadcasting where it needs to. Quality. They did use a quality weird here too. All right, so here's the discussion I want to throw in here. I'm just going to let it roll. All right, let this discussion roll in. Let me make sure it's locked. Man, it froze up for a second. There we go. All right, here we go.
3, 2, 1, sir. How goes the battle?
Happy belated birthday.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'm 40. I forgot to mention it on the stream on Thursday. I'm 45 years old, the year of the Trump.
Well, any
Props,
particular
by the way.
gifts or cake or celebrations?
I'm a simple man, Robert. We got steak. We got meat at Easy Meats on Glades, and we had a barbecue. I did the exact same thing on my birthday that I do every day. Did a stream.
How is this man 45, by the way? You know, I mean, the graying and stuff, okay, that's fun, but you do that at 30, man. Yeah, props to you there, man. It's been kind to you, buddy.
Jogging, fished in the afternoon. It was that's all I ever want for a birthday. It was fantastic. My wife got me spike ball, that thing that you play at the beach. I'll show you what I got actually later on. We'll bring him in, and another gift, which is fantastic. Sorry.
A good combination out there is a group that I think it's FAFO Farms that supports independent small farmers like Amos Miller. Is that there are several that are veteran owned, and he's promoting them on. They're promoting him on Twitter. So that might be a cool way to celebrate your Memorial Day, is to get some steak and meat from a veteran-owned small independent farm.
Sad situation, and someone said to me, "Well, you didn't show this much." Well,
I didn't roll it
reply
as
to
far
I
as
have
I
to
should
stop
up.
replying
Sorry.
to trolls, but they said you didn't show this much sympathy and empathy when it was Hunter Biden. I was like, if you don't understand the difference between all of this, then I can't explain it by way of a comment in Twitter. But so the bottom line is Nick and his wife and a third person who I don't know who she is, but content-wise, but an internet personality, were arrested on, they got charged with 3 charges. One was felony possession of controlled substance over a certain amount, 25 grams. You'll explain the importance of that. The 2 were gross misdemeanors. One was possession of firearms in the presence of a controlled substance, and the other was child neglect, I believe. From what I understand, and these are public documents, so I don't think I'm saying anything that's not public, apparently there was not a wellness check, I don't know what it is, a mandated monitor who said that they were concerned for the kids being neglected, and then police showed up. This is all in public court documents. They wouldn't open the door. They battered the door down, and they found a bunch of stuff when they came there for that reason from the warrant. Take it from there, because I don't know what more I can add to the situation.
There are substantial constitutional questions about everything connected to the Rekieta case. So there's been a lot of focus in LawTube on the substantive charges and those that want to make sure that Nick's health is in good state, and that's understandable. But I think LawTube should start to focus on the constitutional issues of what's taking place here. You have a high-profile critic of the local court system, of the local prosecutors, of the local police, suddenly being subject to an extraordinary search warrant raid and questionable charges that raise questions under the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and even the Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Within 2 days of this case, there are major constitutional questions about the conduct of the government. And that to date has not been talked about at great length. So the First Amendment question is, you look at the underlying facts, and I expected to find something different in the probable cause affidavit supporting detention than what I found. According to the only allegation, there's a lot of false statements being made out there. I love the quartering, but he's been taken in by some of these false statements and false claims. Just go to what is actually alleged in the probable cause. We don't yet have the probable cause for the search warrant.
I think that's important. Somebody was like, why go over the document? First of all, I'm not going over that document in one of my live streams. You know, I mentioned it in Flashcast, but I didn't cover anything on the weekend. I covered the reports that came out first about that, talking about the media covering it. But that's why you add the document itself, because you do want to cover the specifics to that. Again, I want you to know exactly. That's easily found, by the way. It's readily available. But again, I do think that's great. It's bad enough. It's horrible what's here. But the first reports I heard were they had been arrested. They were in the car. I mean, this was for real. There was a post about this. Somebody had heard that they were all in the car. There was potentially a kid in the car. They had been arrested while they were trying to go hook up, and they had a firearm on them. And that's 100% wrong. You know, and again, that's a very crazy claim. But it does show you why people have to go back to the documentation.
I'm very curious about that. But you go to the probable cause for the detention, initial detention, and it basically says a pastor came and reported concern for the children. That normally leads to a wellness check. That doesn't normally lead to search warrant, knock down your door, arrest everybody inside. So my first is, and not only that, there was a week delay. So, I mean, they're seriously concerned for the children, so they do nothing for a week.
Can I stop you there? Actually, my first question when I heard that, because at first I read that it was a pastor who requested a wellness check. I forget what the term is. And my first reaction to that was, isn't that the type of thing that should remain confidential? If indeed, I don't know if Nick is talking to the pastor, isn't that confidential or privileged? And not, you know, there has to be
No, it is to a degree. It's just like talking to a doctor, a therapist, or anything else. And again, it's the assumption that Nick had been talking to. There's an assumption being made there. It's that person. Okay, well, if they're observing a situation where you feel that a child may be in danger in the present, or there's a continuing, again, and the reason I say it that way is people will come into an office and tell you something happened in the past. Okay, well, if that happened in the past and they're, you know, the person that was doing that is gone, or just whatever, you know, there's been court case, that doesn't apply. So that doesn't trigger mandatory reporting. But in specific conditions, yes, 100%. Now, there's going to be a discussion about that, how they don't like that, and understand that. I can understand that. At the same time, if you swept all of that away, what would that mean? As a therapist, if I found out, for example, that a child is being, what I think is being put in danger, they are living in a situation where something terrible could potentially happen. Like, again, there's drug use. You don't know what's going on in the home, but you know, like this is it looks like a bad situation, or you've had reports. We don't know exactly what's being reported to. Yeah, you have a duty there. And like I said, I've seen people, not them, I'm not talking about them, by the way, but I've seen people railing about the mandatory reporter, like focusing and fixating on them like there's some kind of bad guy. And what, really? You know, at what point? So you just think that everything that goes on, there's no obligation to make sure, to ensure a child's well-being? You know, in a truly advanced, or I hate using this word now, but a truly progressive, as in advancing, not the word that we see online all the time. In a truly progressive society, you take care of your most vulnerable citizenry. That is your elderly, your mentally ill, and especially your children. Children have to be, because they can't protect themselves. They are the most vulnerable out there. And does that sometimes lead to drag? Yes, of course. Of course it does. And it does make it difficult sometimes to, it makes conversations difficult sometimes. You know, I've heard conversations about someone betraying a client, like in therapy. Man, it's not betrayal. You know, it becomes more than just that person. So is it confidential? To a degree. To a degree. You know, and I also saw people saying, well, the mandatory reporter, they're just looking out for themselves. No, I mean, you are. Like, there could be some ramifications for yourself. But for me, like, if I got to pick up the phone, I'm worried about something. I'm not just doing it because I want to be nasty or spiteful. Like, that's not something that ever crosses your mind. You have genuine concern for a child. And again, you know, if you didn't pick up that phone, or you didn't go in person in this case and talk to somebody, and a worst case scenario actually does transpire, forget liability as far as licensure or anything else, man. I got to sleep at night. I got to feel good about myself. Again, I don't mean to sound selfish, but it is about you in that way. I got to be able to close my eyes and feel like I'm not a shit human being that let some child end up in some kind of horrific situation. So, you know, again, they're not pointing in a negative way, but there has been a lot of that I've seen. And I think that is way off topic, way off point.
Exigent circumstances for a pastor to violate whatever rules of secrecy he's bound by.
I have long opposed mandatory reporting laws, and I understand where they originated. They originated out of concern that child abuse was being unreported by people in a position to know, particularly medical care providers. The problem is it has got to such a length that people cannot seek out counseling. So that I dealt with this with another client where I had to advise them, you can't get counseling. If you go get counseling, then you may disclose something to that counselor that can now be used against you. That shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, that's awful in those situations. And again, they made a good point here too, like something I don't want to skip over. That by itself triggers a wellness check. A wellness check doesn't come with a battering ram. It can later, possibly, depending on how things go. But the first step is not that. Now, what else is there? No. But if that's the only thing that ends up building toward that, then yeah, that's 100% messed up. 100%. And it is a sad situation. We do see subpoenas for client-related documentation. Now, therapists, I've seen some therapists that write down every single word a person says too. But that's why a lot of times when you see documentation, you'll see like SR, service recipient, showcase no progress today, no use of coping skills, denies, blah, blah. You know, it reads very mechanically. Because again, you're not sitting there. First of all, you're not judging your client. You're writing out something to give you a shorthand. And really it's, your record's being probably presented to an insurance company anyway. I mean, somebody else is seeing it anyway, you know, that's outside of that loop if you're actually paying for insurance. But yeah, I mean, that is a real problem. Like you can have, it's not supposed to be misused. It does get misused. I would say that what we were looking at here too, you can make the case with that wellness check, you know, again, just going back to that idea, do you think potentially at what we were seeing from Nick, potentially a wellness check, not a battering ram, but a wellness check could have saved Nick Rekieta's life?
We're supposed to have provider petitioner privilege, both in the context of ministers and healthcare officials. And yet these laws are overriding it. And it's always done in the name of let's protect children, it usually leads to children being in more harm because people in a position to seek assistance don't. So I've not been a fan of mandatory reporting laws. But the second aspect of all this is what that's supposed to lead to is a wellness check, not a search warrant and raid of somebody's home. So that is, I find, and the question is it a coincidence that the judges involved apparently in this effort are judges that Nick has been very publicly critical of and questioning not only their competency but their ethics, that it involves a prosecutor's office that Nick has been publicly critical of, exposing issues of corruption and competence, and a police department he has been publicly critical of, exposing corruption and competence.
That is why, and they mention this, that is why when I talk about small town and screw ups, I always like to mention that here in my small town, everyone is great. Because seriously, you remember the old adage about shitting where you eat? Yeah, you know. If you do, again, it shouldn't be like this. I'm not making excuses for it. But the way the world works is if somebody is in a position of power and they can just totally jack you up, they may well indeed do that. And yeah, the judge that, so in that crazy stream, and there are clips of this, if you're so inclined, I'm not going to pull them up. But in that stream, there was about, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, talking about that specific judge in his lawsuit, the monograph lawsuit. He's talked about that specific judge before, too, and how they've handled things. Well, guess who's involved with this? Yeah. You know, and that, you may look at that and think, oh my God. Okay, well, where I live, you know how many judges we have, really, that see pretty much everything? 2. We have 2 judges. So, like, when you get down to it, if you're thinking like, hey, that sounds crazy, that umbrella guy, well, that's usually how it is. I mean, with a small town, you don't have a lot of judges. And that is not making it, see, that's a terrible thing. In fact, you end up with a lot of conflict of interest issues and all kinds of other issues that come up from it. But yeah, that is a reality that you can definitely run across. And people, especially judges, can be very vindictive. We have seen examples of that. So again, I'm not saying that they are in this particular case. I don't know. But it does make you think, wow, you know, that person, their involvement, that's not good. You know, and their involvement too. I mean, and there have been discussions about recusal. Like what would happen when? Well, unfortunately, we've got multiple things going on. We had lawsuit, and we have this, and this is not good.
And to stop you there for a moment, because I heard the same thing as well, and I had the same queries that you had. Apparently, the judge assigned to Nick's criminal case is the same judge who's involved in his civil case, the defamation case, where he's been a vocal critic of her. And I had the same questions, like, how the hell is a judge doing both criminal and civil? But many people say it's a small town, so maybe they're not that many judges.
Well, that's the issue. You have the biggest high-profile critic in a small county of all these powerful actors. Like, people ask me now and then, why do I live in Las Vegas? It's because I don't practice law in Las Vegas. I don't practice law in the state of Nevada. It provides a degree of protection from if you know anything about Las Vegas police, you would know you'd want to be careful. If you want to practice law in Nevada, don't live in Nevada. Put it that. We'll get to that when we get to the Gruden case a little later on. But so I have First Amendment case questions. I mean, were biased, prejudiced, partisan officials part of the entire process? We'll get to this when we can talk about the Trump case. In authorizing and approving this extraordinary search warrant, then you get to and that could be discriminatory, selective, disparate under the First Amendment, all legitimate issues that also President Trump has raised in all of his cases. Then you get to the Second Amendment issues. I was curious, I was like, okay, why is there a gun charge here? He legally had the right to possess the guns. He's got no criminal history of any category. And I thought, well, there must be something in the probable cause for detention that will say the guns were in the presence of the children or something like that. Nope. It's in his private bedroom, his personal bedroom. In the bathroom of that bedroom is where they found the substances and where they found a gun and some ammunition. It's like, how is that grounds for under the Second Amendment to charge anybody with a crime? And then you have the bail provisions that say, because you've now been charged with this crime, you have no Second Amendment rights. You lose your right to possess a gun in Minnesota under their regular routine conditions of bail in Minnesota. That strikes me as violating the Second Amendment. And we've discussed this before. Remember the Oklahoma case, other cases. There is no constitutional history, and that's the standard under Bruin, of criminally punishing someone merely for possession of a gun, merely because they've also been charged with possession of some illegal substance. It's only been illegal use of a gun at the time you possess or are under the influence of illegal substances or under the influence beyond the range of what's legal, such as alcohol, and usually in a public place. And so I think that the criminal charge of the gun charge.
I see comment. I've seen this a lot. Grifters guarding grifters, right? There are questions about legality. You do want to get it right. There are two separate issues. I've been very vocal about what I think about this stuff, but that is because of my observations. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So when I see that, and these guys, like, they're lawyers. That's how they look at stuff. That is. They go straight to, how does this fit in with the law? And this is typically how we would look at many other cases. Or again, when you look at it, you'd be like, holy crap, that's bad. And there would be discussions about every aspect of this as if it were a case. I mean, if you're looking at it, I can't look at this from a detached place. I'll be the first to admit that. I cannot do that. And that's led to sterner commentary, I think, with this, instead of, it's not led to matter-of-fact statements. It's led to items, again, because you're talking about the person that you've observed. You've observed the decline and the deterioration, or at least that's what I see there. And I'm also, again, ultimately, I hate to think that this stuff could have been done wrong when you go in. Lots of drugs, people like potentially out of their mind, firearms, children. That, you can tell me that's a good mix. Again, if we get into the legal gun ownership rights, what negates your rights, what doesn't? I think the majority of us come from a layperson's perspective. Whatever job you do, we don't look at these situations like lawyers. We look at it like, holy crap, of course, I don't want that around. That could be horrible, that could be dangerous. And when you get into it, you don't want to surrender. Once you surrender any right, if there is a violation, you never get them back. Like, people don't get their rights back. And that's one of the things that they discuss too. You don't want overreach, because once you allow overreach, how far does overreach go? And that definitely has to be part of a thing too.
Against Rekieta patently violates the Second Amendment rights. I think the bail condition violates the Second Amendment rights.
Well, the gun charge is a gross misdemeanor, so 364 days maximum sentence. The big one is the possession of a controlled substance. The other thing is
they use it as an enhancement for sentencing purposes on the drug charge. So there's a dual level influence of that particular aspect. And there's no allegation of any illegal use of a gun. No allegation that he used the gun in a public place. No allegation that he used the gun while under the influence.
The report mentioned a spent shell, which was near the Glock. which I don't. It sounds scary. Was he discharging the weapon, the firearm in the house? The bail, Robert. We had the same two questions, I think, as well. And if I made a mistake, I'll correct myself on Twitter. They were saying 50,000. What was it? Unconditional. It was a UR.
They didn't say anything about discharge of a firearm in a house, by the way. That would have definitely been noted if you saw like bullet holes in the walls or anything. They would have brought that up. Oh, you better damn well know that they would have been looking for something like that. Shell case. I'm curious. Again, I'm thinking the shell casings out of anything. That is as far as details. I'm not talking about charges or anything else. Just details. That is the smallest detail here. That like that. Okay. That's probably got an explanation. It probably does. It's probably got something. You'd be like, all right, whatever. Other stuff, however, not so much.
There was an acronym they used, and it sounded like it was $50,000 bond or all of these conditions, when in reality, what was agreed to was 50,000 and a bunch of conditions. Correct?
No, it's or. So Minnesota's unique. Most states, that's always an and. In Minnesota, I can tell you why they're doing this. They're doing this to evade constitutional challenges. Though it actually they don't evade it in the process, because you can't impose a monetary fine on the assertion of your constitutional rights or remedies. That would be a form of unreasonable bail under the Eighth Amendment, just as it would be an excessive fine if it were a fine as some form of civil or criminal punishment under the Eighth Amendment. What they're doing is they're setting themselves up to make it easy. Say, you didn't have to apply any of these conditions as long as you posted bail. They give the two options. Either you post bail and then you have no conditions on you, none. Or you agree to the conditions and then you're out on your personal recognizance and you don't have to issue. And the theory is that either one will secure your appearance later. How does taking away somebody's Second Amendment rights secure their appearance?
Well, but then, I mean, why wouldn't the options? I thought they were alternative, and then I thought they were cumulative when they were agreed to. It was 50,000 bond, which he would have only had to post 10% and get the rest by a bonding company, or these conditions, or these.
Depends on the jurisdiction. There's some places that are pure cash bail where you have to post the whole amount. I think in Minnesota you can get a bond agency to post.
Okay, so he agreed to the conditions, which include travel restrictions, drug testing, what else?
But also loss of gun rights.
My own question was, independently, what happens if someone's out on bail and then there's a random drug check or alcohol test check
they try to do it. That raises separate Fourth Amendment issues. Always has. Drug testing while on bail, to me, is also unconstitutional. It's arisen in the probation context, even. The Ninth Circuit called it an unconstitutional condition. So in my view, that's, again, and what they're trying to do is use scandalous or sensational facts to slowly strip us of all of our liberties and rights. They're trying to use bail as a control mechanism. And so that's its own independent problem. The same with controlled substances. For those folks out there that might be like, well, I really hate particular substances, don't think person should ever use them. Okay, just remember, right now, the state of Pennsylvania has already said that having Amos Miller's raw milk in your refrigerator is the exact same as having any illegal drug in your possession. Now imagine if they could you have Amos Miller's raw milk in your fridge.
I'm just going to go and say Amos Miller's raw milk. This is not what we're talking about. I get what he's saying here. We ain't talking about having some raw milk in your fridge here. If we were talking about having raw milk in his fridge and somebody kicked his door in, or knocked it down, we'd be having a different conversation. A much different conversation. There would be so much noise out there, like everyone would be going mental, but that's not what's happening. Again, I get what they're saying. They strip it away a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time until. But yeah, we're not having that talk. Like, that's not. There are people out there too that are like, all these substances, just let them all be legal and let God sort it out. Yeah, what you end up with is a lot of dead people. A lot. And if that's okay with you, I guess that's okay with you. Like I said, my field I work in, it's not okay with me. It's not. I don't believe that people are irredeemable. And that's ultimately what would happen. You would be marking people as irredeemable. Therefore, some people, you know, you could get there anyway. People get down on their luck. They have terrible ways to cope. Like ultimately, a lot of times people that have been through the worst things in life are drug addicts. The people that you find on the street, for example, many of the people there are mentally ill as well as drug addicts. They may be just mentally ill, but you find mentally ill drug addicts, and you find people that have been horrendous shit, abuse, other things. They had, I mean, my God. And if you're just like, let it all sort out, I mean, it would come in a really high toll. So it's hard for me to even rationalize this in the context of what we're talking about. It is. And, you know, I'm trying to look at this from a law perspective. Very much. That, again, I don't have a lawyer mindset or a lawyer brain.
Grounds to strip you of all your Second Amendment rights. And then we get to the next charge, the child endangerment charge. I assume there was some connection. There's none. They're simply saying if you possess an illegal substance, we're going to call that endangerment of a child. And it's like, that strikes me as a Fifth Amendment violation. Because
they're saying it in, it's not like you had a pocket rock here or something, you know, or, and they probably would have done the same thing with that. But the amount of substance there, they're saying, you know, in the home, there were juvenile kids, they were all around. I mean, that, yeah, they're saying that was endangering. And they found, you know, they're saying they found copious amounts of drugs. And they're also saying the way I understood it is the activity of the people. You know, again, you know, they noted the state of the home and everything else. They're drawing a picture and they're saying neglect. This is neglectful. You are not providing. One of the things CPS will nail you for is not providing a safe environment. You know, a safe environment, how is that defined? It's defined many ways. Somebody in the chat said, CPS doesn't have the kids. No, they don't. But you better damn well believe that they're involved. You better damn well. They're the most stringent thing in this by far. Like you're going to have, again, people have talked about the weight, the drugs. That first time use, they'll probably get that knocked down. As long as, again, Nick and everybody goes through specific steps, they'll get that knocked down. They'll get it knocked down to probably probation. But with the kids, I mean, when you involve CPS, I mean, that stays with you. They decide the hoops. They decide the hurdles. You know, that's a very serious allegation there. And it is an allegation. Everything is an allegation. Again, I want to stress that.
Because under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the most fundamental of all fundamental rights under the Due Process Clause, as the Supreme Court itself has acknowledged many times, is the right of a parent for control, custody, and care of their children, for them to make those decisions. That can only be invaded if you showed harm to the child. There is no allegation at all that he has caused any harm to his children ever.
And now, so let me.
That's according to the government. I'm just going with the government's own probable cause declaration.
Well, no, and that's what I was going to say. Is like there's a lot of, well, say the quartering, for example, says, you know, Nick has been blackout drunk, and then 4 hours later talks about driving his kids around. You're not sober within 4 hours, whatever. A lot of other people have seen what I'll call the public meltdown, which I think is related to alcohol abuse at the very least, and you know, infuse that or combine that. Whereas from the state's perspective, that it's not like they even referenced the streams.
Exactly. If that was the basis, it would have been in that. See, I thought they had some independent basis for this. They had none. All they did is some. And this will get to the Fourth Amendment issue now. I thought there was something more here. Not, okay, you found something in a dude's bathroom, and that's it. All of a sudden, you're going to take that as a grounds for a search warrant. You're going to take that as a grounds to take away Second Amendment rights. You're going to take that as grounds to take away care, custody, and control of children. You're going to use that to let child endangerment. When the child, I read the statute requires the child be in the presence. They're interpreting that so broadly that they can basically take away anybody's child if any substance you're using they don't like. And remember, the state of Pennsylvania includes Amos Miller's raw milk in that. That's how nuts some of this is. It violates constitutional rights, and they're using the scandal and sensational facts, and people like the quartering misunderstanding the facts to try to get away with a severe deprivation of constitutional liberty.
Well, no, I think a lot of people are joining what they know personally and what they've witnessed over the last little while with the law. So they're saying, okay, well, I know all this stuff.
That's where they're like, no one has witnessed anything bad, but I assume they have these facts. They don't. Anything negative towards the children at all, other than they thought the house was messy. And I was like, hold on a second. That's not grounds.
Well, no,
or alleged child endangerment. I mean, I commit it every other day if that's the case.
And like that, the document says, dirty dishes and the house is sort of in disarray. I'm like, crap, if someone comes through this at my house and says there's dog poo and streaks of dog, they won't know it's dog blood, but like one of our paralyzed dogs, she sometimes bleeds and drags her feet around. And I mean, that much I'm very skeptical of. I think what a lot of people are doing is merging what they have seen personally and publicly of Nick with these charges.
In the live chat where people are saying, well, I know this in general about people who have problems with alcohol or drugs or gambling or other abuse, addiction related issues causing issues with children. Yeah, but we don't presume things like that. We don't assume that everybody that has an issue that you have to prove it with actual facts. And that's the problem here.
Well,
now we get to the Fourth Amendment problems next.
Oh, before you get to the Fourth Amendment, let me just throw this in because people say, look, a pastor was so concerned. He said a wellness check on the kids, and there has to be a good reason for that. Who the hell knows what information the pastor had?
Well, okay, looking up child neglect as far as home conditions. All right, again, this is just how it's stated. This may include, but is not limited to, abandonment, lack of supervision, lack of adequate nutrition that places the child above the normal growth curve, lack of shelter, lack of medical or dental, the inability to meet basic needs. So as far as talking about home condition, like that's where you get in with CPS looks and police look at not just if somebody's putting hands on a child, but can you adequately care for this child? Can you meet the basic needs of the child? And in a home where, again, people are allegedly addicts, no, you cannot meet those basic needs. If you're like these things take over your lives. And again, yes, this is all speculation. It's just looking at, but when I'm looking at that document, I'm looking at it as if I were presented this and I were presented, there are kids living in this situation. Would I say, yes, this is a safe home for a child to be in? Like as a provider or a CPS worker or whatever. And again, but I want to make this absolutely clear. I am not in any way, shape, or form advocating. CPS overreaches are horrible. They destroy lives. But you know what? There's the other side of it too. There are situations where, you can't imagine some of the stuff kids go through. And we have basic, and it's not limited to what I noted, by the way. That was the Tennessee definition. I didn't look up the Minnesota definition. I just had, when I looked that up, it pulls up, near you. So it pulled up the Tennessee definition. But I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb and saying that's probably going to be defined the same way too. And yeah, we don't want to go off allegations in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that there was a discussion about, they're going to bring this up on one of the documents. It had gone into a statute about physical, and that wasn't what was noted with the if that was the case, if there was an allegation of physical, or I'm going to say essay, if that were the case, they would have you would have heard about that. You'd have definitely heard about that. It wouldn't have just been looped in and, oh well, the drugs are the real problem here. Oh no. Oh man. I think somebody, like, with that documentation again, a lot of when you go through like depending on how they're set up, how their computer systems are set up, a lot of times these are just off of boxes, like check boxes, tick 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 tick. So did you hit the wrong check box? Maybe. I don't know the answer to that. I just know when charges were listed and they were discussed, like, no.
Living in a world where I'm not trying to be over cynical.
Well, I thought there was more detail. I mean, that's where I thought, okay, this is a detention warrant. This is saying this is the grounds for all of this. And I thought, okay, there's going to be a lot of details of what the pastor said that really precipitated serious concern, and that it's not there. I mean, I was stunned it wasn't there. I was like, wow. They saw this as an opportunity to go after one of probably their biggest critic, given how small a county they are. Their biggest critic. They're like, this is a chance to shut him up and punish him for yipping about us for years. That's what I see, because that pastor's complaint was more like, hey, I got a basic concern. It was not, here, this specific. Nothing like that was there.
And people can say, like, I see some of the chat, like, you're defending them. Even, first of all,
I could care less about those people. So I care about constitutional liberty. I want Nick to do well. I want him to get good counsel, all those things on a personal basis. But we're not the shrink show, nor are we the moral judgment show. We're the law for the people show. And we care about constitutional rights and liberties. And guess what, folks? You dig into a lot of constitutional rights. Miranda wasn't the sweetest human being on the planet. So, I mean, you give people that some of our core constitutional rights when they want to eviscerate our rights, they're not going to go after popular people. They're not going to go after people who have the most perfect life history. For those that don't remember, Rush Limbaugh had his own addiction problems. Half of America will either have a personal close relationship with someone or themselves have an addiction problem at some point in their lifetime. That's so these people that get real judgmental, it's like, hold on a second, this is pretty darn common. Mark Robert does great work in terms of helping people. You can go to America's Untold Story.
Here's a question for you, Chad. When you're talking about this issue, do you feel you're being judgmental of drug addiction? Do you feel just that specific item, again, not cluing in anything else like kids or anything else, do you feel that you're being judgmental because somebody utilizes illegal substances? Because I don't. I feel that I have real concern, again, that's outside of the police knocking down a door. I have real concerns about somebody dying from that. So if you want to call that judgmental, I guess you could say that. So, but I don't feel like I'm judging a person when I discuss this person's going to die. And that's where that goes. Either that, or again, you throw your whole life away, and it does impact other people. It very well does. I saw a kid one time that their parent, they would leave them over and over again. All their life, their entire life, they left them over and over again because of drug use. And the last time that they were in their home, they decided they wouldn't, and they were a full-blown addict. And the stuff that went on in that particular instance was horrible. It was horrible. Wow. That person ended up, their parent ended up dying from whatever I can't remember what they were using, because they were using a bunch of stuff. But in that, and you can't stop people from using, but when people were looking, we were looking at that, it wasn't judgment of the addict. It was so much more. Like I said, I don't think people, like most people, are very forgiving of something like that. Again, a lot of folks have talked about use in the past, getting things right. I think people are rooting for Rekieta to get that straightened up. Again, I don't think that's judgment. And there are going to be some people, of course, but
stories. He covers that. You can read his book about Rehab Nation.
Mm-hmm.
That there's good stuff there. But on the law side, they're trying to eviscerate his constitutional rights. And
John noted you're comparing two different. Now, what I'm saying is, when you look at addicts and they're having problems, nobody's judging that addict. They're looking at what in their life. Again, their life is going the way of the dodo bird. They're out, and they're going to do damage all around them. And that's what people worry about. Again, I'm not looking at it as I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I very freely will admit that, and that leads to issues, especially when you're close. The closer you get to something, it's hard to separate these items. It is very difficult to separate these items. Because you know how this stuff goes. And I mean, you're right in that. You're very right. It's hard to look at this stuff and separate any of it.
And I see all the law too that the not talking about this, and it's like, to me, once I dug in, I was shocked at what I was seeing.
Well, especially in the context of That Umbrella Guy's covering it. I mean, he's also concerned for what Nick he considers to be a friend, but like they called CPS on That Umbrella Guy as well. Anonymous calls.
Yeah.
Who knows what information the pastor is acting on?
Well,
they've got 5 kids.
That is too, and you know how that went. So I got a knock on my door from CPS. I refused them entry. I talked to them briefly on advice from a lawyer. I talked to them briefly, to be fine. They demanded to see evidence of. They wanted to do eyes on with the kids. I was like, you're not coming in the house. I'm not. And they were like, well, we can come back with a warrant. It was like, well, what we'll do is I'll have my lawyer contact, and we will set up something. That's the way that will go. That's a wellness check, though. That's typically what you're talking about there. So, yes, lawyer talked to them, ran all the documentation through them to make sure that everything was there, made sure you record it. They came in, they looked around, the complaints, I had false complaints of just crazy shit, and obviously that wasn't the case. They did not come in with police either. So, like Nate the lawyer said, we don't have access to everything else that happened in those days. We don't. And I don't have an answer for how this escalates from a wellness check to somebody knocking down a door. If it just went from complaint, we're not also talking anonymous complaint. Maybe that I don't know. We don't have all the answers to fill in those blanks. So yeah, I mean, we deal with false allegations with that 100%, and that is a frightening thing too, because those people can definitely take your kids. Again, they didn't show up with a warrant. Very cooperative, but making sure obviously you don't invite folks in. Like if they show up with a warrant, that's a different story. But yeah, 100%. So like I said, I'm not in there. I'm not taking it for that. I don't, nothing negative in mention either. There wasn't anything negative when that was said either. I like Viva. I think Viva's good people. I think Viva tries to do good work out there. And I think does good work out there, actually. Brings up a lot of crazy cases. So there's nothing negative in that statement. And absolutely. I mean, that is a huge concern in this stuff too.
Kids.
That's the Fourth Amendment issue. So I thought, okay, so first of all, and for people out there, when people get swatted, that's usually a Fourth Amendment violation by the government. The government can't rely on anonymous information, third-party information, hearsay information as their sole basis to go and take a ram and bang down your door in your house, right? That's not what is allowed under the Fourth Amendment. You have to have probable cause of a crime, and under internal public policy, it's discouraged. We'll get to this when we talk about Trump and Mar-a-Lago. You got to be discreet when you're executing search warrants. Okay, search warrants should be for exceptional cases, right? That's drug dealer cases. How many times have you heard of a search warrant being executed on a first-time alleged a drug user? I mean, this is very rare. I'd be curious how often they've done it in that small county. So again, going to the First Amendment issues, but what was their basis for probable cause? So the pastor doesn't have any firsthand information, doesn't report any firsthand information. Okay, so now you've got and he's reporting it from somebody else. So he's like, you got third-hand information. If the information may be privileged in the way in which he got access to it, which raises its own separate set of questions. He apparently had no detail. I mean, it's of any actual neglect or abuse. He didn't say, okay, that the child is having this problem or this problem. None of that. It's, hey, I think that there may be an issue with substance abuse of the parent. I'm concerned with how that impacts the kids. He's clearly asking for a wellness check. He's not asking to raid the house in front of the kids with a bunch of armed police officers ramming the door down. And so I think there's serious Fourth Amendment issues present here, because I'm very curious how they got to probable cause, because by golly, it ain't in that detention warrant. And then we still have another one, because they're busy violating every constitutional liberty they can figure out there in that small Minnesota county. We have the Sixth Amendment issues. They apparently were on notice at some point early on that he was the counsel for his wife and for the third person that was arrested there. It's one thing is, why are they arresting everybody? It's like they arrested everybody in the house. You mean if they do some sort of raid at some place, a party or possession, you're not supposed to arrest everybody, but they arrest every adult. So the kids get forced out of the house. That raises its own question. Clearly, they didn't have much evidence on the third person, because then they dismissed the charges 2 days later.
So her name is April Imholt. They dismissed her charges?
Mm-hmm. All dismissed, all gone, all finito.
Some people might be hypothesizing that means she's cooperating with the state.
There's always a possibility that that's why they arrested her. But here's the issue. Did they talk to her? If they knew Rekieta was her lawyer, did they talk to her without notice to Rekieta? Because that's what Rekieta reported. He said he had been foreclosed from talking to either his wife, who he was representing, or her, who he was representing.
Now, let me stop you there.
Put him on immediate notice. He says he put them on immediate notice that he was representing them. So that's Sixth Amendment right to counsel issues. There's also Miranda issues, because they'll said they would have Mirandized everybody. But it's like, did they arrest her solely to scare and terrify her into telling whatever story they wanted her to tell outside the presence of counsel? So they didn't have probable cause for the arrest, didn't have probable cause for her detention, and then invaded her Sixth Amendment rights in order to secure whatever favorable testimony they possibly could as payback to Rekieta being a high-profile public critic.
Let me ask you the question before I'm going to read some of these chats, because they have some decent questions in there as well. It's one thing to say I want to represent someone and I'm being denied counsel. Can a co-defendant who's an attorney represent another co-defendant?
Oh, yes, and I'll give you an example, because the government's done this nonsense to me. So one of the games the government likes to play, they did it to Gotti when they finally got him, is that they try to find a way to separate out the client from the lawyer. And now I was very public saying, if you're in a situation like Nick's, get independent counsel right away. It's the first call you make. You make sure they're all lined up. You make sure the cops all know. You make sure everybody all knows. That's just tactical advice. Putting that aside, that still doesn't change the constitutional analysis. So absolutely, he can represent them, and they can challenge it at a later point about whether there's a conflict, an unwaivable interest. Okay. But the government has done this multiple contexts in my cases. They try to always separate out the defendants. Usually the defendants are best served with joint defenses, often joint representation. But because they know that the best way they get people to point fingers at each other, both of them usually go down. That's how that tends to work, particularly in husband and wife situations. But the other aspect is they also, if the lawyer's real effective, they go after the lawyer. So years ago, I had a case in which my client sort of stumbled into a massive Obama scandal. And the scandal was that the Obama administration was using the IRS to enforce Obamacare. And it was the pretext by which the Obama IRS who already had everybody's most private information through the financial records they confess each year on their tax returns and their other mass gathering of it. Part of why they want the PayPal information and all the rest. It's to put you into the surveillance grid. It's not about making sure they accurately collect tax. But what they did in this context is they were stealing everybody's medical records. They were going around to medical care providers and record keepers especially, and forcing them to turn over all of their medical records. This was information that gave them, I called it J. Edgar Hoover's wet dream of a blackmail file. And they had stolen the medical records of every judge in the state of California, and I'm sure they were doing it across the country, of every Major League Baseball player, of every screenwriter, of every movie director, of every movie actor, of every movie producer. They were stealing all of it. And basically they had blackmail on some of the most powerful people in the world, either in terms of social influence or political influence or legal or economic influence. Because, they knew who had been in for sex addiction rehab treatment, for example, right? That kind of thing. And he stumbled into it and started to report it. And the IRS decided to put him under microscopic inquiry for criminal tax cases and tried to lock him up for life. And he hired me, and I was the hit. I exposed what they had done on the medical records, started exposing their other misconduct. The prosecutor involved was very politically connected. He was the guy that was picked by the Obama administration to handle fast and furious charges in another jurisdiction. That's how politically ambitious this guy was. But the IRS got very agitated, and his office got very agitated that I was having a lot of success. And so they decided to manufacture a case where they were going to accuse me and my client of being in a conspiracy to assassinate the prosecutor on one of the most ludicrous, asinine, absurd charges ever. But their whole goal was to separate me from the lawyer. Say, oh, now you can't represent him anymore, Barnes, because now we got an accusation against you two. And if you don't play ball, Barnes, and be nice, maybe, this has a death penalty statute that this carries with it. And my attitude was, F you. That I'm going to protect my client's constitutional rights and my own. And, let's see how this all works out at the end. In the end, by the way, he didn't serve a single day in federal prison, didn't pay a single fine, but he did recognize the need.
Now, why would I play this, by the way? What's the point? Because the entirety of I'm not a lawyer, so I do not consider myself part of LawTube in any way. Sometimes I get thrown in there. I'm not part of law, obviously. I'm not a lawyer. But there have been entire discussions about this. And there have been talks about, again, constitutionality, the search. Like I said, that is not my place. That is not my debate. There was a 2.5-hour debate over this. There's a lot of discussion over it. My issue is when I look at this, man, outside of any of that, I hope we can agree that Nick is in a bad place. Like he was anyway. I would still say he is. Again, when I looked at him on that stream, he was in crisis. He was in he's in needs immediate intervention. And there were indeed talks about that, getting him immediate help. So many people were talking about that. They knew it. I don't want to minimize that. I hope, again, that Nick wouldn't want to minimize that. I hope. I can't speak for another human being. Again, when I hear you don't know the whole story, maybe that's over drama. I don't know. But I want to play you something. I'm just going to let it play, by the way. It is actually not a short clip. It's about a 14-minute clip. It'll bring in things that, again, are conjecture. But Mr. Metokur did a stream the other night, and it was very good in some of its statements, because ultimately, when you listen to Mr. Metokur and you listen to what he was saying, he had a lot to say about you throwing everything away, man. Ultimately rooting for him to come back. I don't want to interrupt it. I think this is a place where, when you look at the difference between lawyers and you look at just a lay person looking at everything that leads up to this, again, we're not talking about the arrest and the constitutionality. You're just talking about what people observed from it. What was it worth it? And I want to play this because I think, I hope he heard this too. I think it was again, this was like a 4-hour stream, by the way. It was a 4-hour, there was no filler stream. But at the end of it, again, this is somebody that has known Nick for a long time. I've been around, I think I met Nick in 2018. 2019 is when the Vic Mignogna stuff started up. So that was big. I got to know Nick. I like Nick. Again, we're not like I'm not phone buddies with, there are a couple of people that I will call outside of, say, a DM. So it's just not something I do. But I would consider him a friend in this stuff. I always have. We've streamed a lot of times together. We streamed off a Depp case. We've talked about some crazy stuff here and there. And again, and we've done a lot of like flashcast streams and everything else. So when people are looking at the deterioration of the man, when I looked at the guy that I knew then versus what I saw in that live stream, it concerned me. And I think it concerned a lot of people. So I just want to play this. Like I said, it's not a short clip, but I think it's a good clip. And again, it's going to bring in some conjecture stuff. You take that as it will. But I think the point being made is absolutely 100%.
Nick Rekieta started his career as a humble family man that grew into wild success with an audience of 100,000 plus, making buku bucks. He was beloved by many people, supported by an extraordinary amount of people. Came out with a format that was unique and interesting and got a lot of people their YouTube channels. A lot of LawTubers blew up because of him. Was on the cusp of success and greatness with Netflix and with television and with the news. He was one of the people that really could have parlayed it into something incredible. But that success allowed his vices to take control of him. And these legal proceedings, whether they're true or not, have given you a glimpse behind the curtain, so to speak. Because you could take away all of this. You could take away the warrant. You could say it was bullshit and fraudulent and it should never have been. He could find a great argument to get out of any legal repercussions. They could say that the mandatory reporter was misinformed. They could find something. But the fact of the matter is, you still now know that a mistress was living there. You still now know that they had ketamine and cocaine in their possession, that their fucking house was a disheveled mess, that there are guns all over the fucking place, that there's spent shell casings all over the fucking place. As you see him descend deeper and deeper into drinking, you've watched a man throw away his success because this isn't even a midlife crisis. This isn't somebody wanting to sow their wild oats because they missed out on the opportunity. You had it all lined up for you, man. It was all there waiting for you to take it to the next level. You could have done amazing things. And instead you wanted to get high and get drunk and fuck sluts. And it's costing you everything. Your hubris and your ego about this are costing you. I'm not here to talk about the constitutionality of free speech and what you should be able to call Montegraph or not. But I would ask the question, was it worth it? Was it worth putting that financial burden and hardship over your own head and your families? I'm not here to talk about whether or not an open relationship in a marriage is a good or a bad thing. But was it worth it? Seeing the destruction of Aaron and April's marriage and the effect that it's going to have on your marriage. I'm not here to talk about whether or not somebody should be a daily drinker or if they can be a functional alcoholic. But I'm going to ask you, was it worth it? Getting shit-faced drunk every night and watching your numbers diminish and your fan base shrink and your support go away? And I'm not going to sit here and talk about whether or not it's right or wrong to do illicit substances, whether that's shit that just got legalized in Minnesota like marijuana or completely illegal things like ketamine and cocaine. But again, I'll ask you, was it worth it? Having the police knock down your door and scare the shit out of your kids. Having your wife have to go through a booking proceeding. Having to be embarrassed in front of the internet. Was any of this shit worth it? You stood at the precipice of success and you threw it away. For what? Momentary pleasure. You get a little high, you get a little drunk, you get your cock sucked, and your life falls apart. You threw away the idyllic American dream for what? 5 minutes of pleasure? To all those people out there that want to get big in YouTube, this is a good example of really what not to do. You know, right now VTubing is becoming a big thing. A lot of VTubers out there are killing it. And great, good on them. I love it. You know, people like Peppa and Kirsch and all of them. You know, go out and cultivate your fan base, make your product, build your brand, make your money, and plan for your future. Don't get caught up in how famous or popular you are. Put your fucking money away. Buy a house, buy a car. Because by the time your curve is done in 3 or 4 or 5 years, you'll be so far ahead of the game. You'll be set on not having to worry about rent, not having to worry about mortgage, not having to worry about a car or debt or bullshit. You'll be able to live your life how you want to live it. You'll have a chance at that idyllic American dream. Don't do what Nick did. Don't let your ego get the better of you. Don't give in to the momentary dick suckings and cocaine binges and alcohol benders because you're popular for the moment. Don't let those daydream fantasies of revenge against people that told you you'd never make it overtake your rationality. Don't do what this guy did. Otherwise, it's going to be you in the booking photo. And you don't want that. You don't want to be the mugshot. Nobody does. You don't want to be Nick Rekieta with a black eye and people asking, why is his wife getting charged for physical abuse of the children? Why is a woman living in his house? Why is he so drunk? Why were there drugs found? Why was there guns found? Do you think this is something that's easily repaired, Nick? Or anybody watching this? It's not. The damage that's been done from this week alone will have repercussions throughout the rest of your life. It will be the underpinning of any argument you and your wife have about who's responsible for it and how badly things got fucked up. It will affect your relationship with your homeschooling group and your church and your neighborhood and your neighbors, because you'll be the guy whose mugshot they saw, and they'll hear all these fucking stories, and whether or not they're true or how true they are or how factually accurate they are or how far off the mark they are, they'll still know they found a bunch of coke and ketamine and fucking guns. They'll still know some chick you were banging was living there, and they'll ask themselves, what kind of neighbor is this guy? And how fucking reliable is he? I just don't get it. I don't know what happened, man. You really were one of the people that had the best chance, Nick. You really were. You really had the best chance of turning it into something amazing. And I don't know why you've thrown it away. And I don't understand that I can't comprehend why you've thrown it away for so little. You traded it in for so little. You took something that had the potential to grant you an amazing life and you pissed it away for nothing. And, that's what makes me lean towards there really being a problem with alcohol or drugs. Because no rational person that's sober would do that. But an addict would. They wouldn't be able to weigh the pros and cons, the benefits and the penalties. They'd be living in the now. They'd care about that dopamine hit more than anything else. This isn't even me moral fagging. I'm not trying to get preachy with you. I'm genuinely fucking confused. I know you've got a lot of people you talk to. You've got friends and different associates in real life and online. None of them grabbed you by the arm and said, stop? Or the ones that did you pay them no heed? You never woke up one morning hungover feeling like shit with a black eye like you're in your mugshot and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want my life to be this. I can do better than this. You had so much going for you. You know, your kids would have grown up and said, that's my dad on television. That guy is my dad, and he's on TV because he's smart and he's successful and he's motivated, and people fucking love the shit that he does. That's where you were. They would have been going to school and bragging. Now what the fuck are they going to say? Oh yeah, that's my dad in the mugshot. Why would you throw it away, man? Why would you piss that away? I just don't get it. I really don't. Few people are offered the opportunity to have that kind of success. And you really were smart in how you did it. I try not to take that away from you, especially when I talked about it before. A lot of people say, oh, people have done legal shit on the internet before. They've done LawTube stuff before. They have. But that was your idea. The way you did it, the format, the flow of it, the feel of it, that was you, man. That was your creative energy behind it. That was your chance to brand it and capitalize on it and fucking be a rising star with it. And you chose to throw it away. And I just don't fucking understand it. I just don't get it. You know, I hope I hope there's not abuse shit going on with the kids. I hope that the fucking mandatory reporter brought up concerns that were just related to drug use. I hope there's not crazy shit that's going to come out, man, because I don't know if I can take it. I really don't. Because you don't strike me as a piece of shit, Nick. You don't. You don't strike me as a bad person. You never have. And it would be heartbreaking if that turns out to be false. That would fuck me up. If it was Ethan Ralph or some other piece of shit on the internet, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would with you. Maybe I just bought hook, line, and sinker, the bullshit at the beginning. You know, the humble family man. I don't know. But that's who I saw you as being, you know, that's who I thought you really were. And I still hope that you really are. But like I said at the beginning, you can't tell an alcoholic or a drug addict to fix themselves because they won't. They have to decide to do it. And no matter what you think rock bottom is, they have to decide what it is. For some people, rock bottom is a mild inconvenience. It's running out of money when they need it, or it's being in a bit of an uncomfortable situation. For other people, it's being completely homeless and covered in shit until it's rock bottom. I don't know what yours is. One would hope this is. So I don't know. It's depressing. It's just depressing. It's depressing to see potential fall apart like that. And to see something that seems so good, at least on the outside, crumble apart.
I thought that was needed to be said. Again, you may not like wording there, but, and again, yeah, I hope it's rock bottom. I don't think Nick is a bad person. I don't. I don't. I've dealt with him many times, and you know, I agree with Jim on that. I agree that I feel like I'm a decent judge of character, and I think drugs and alcohol will fuck you up. They will. Not everyone, man, but they will. They'll hit you at the bottom. And again, the reason I played that is because you had all the discussion about, you have two discussions going on. And yeah, constitutionality and stuff. I don't know the answers to all of that, man. That's a lawyer discussion. It's going on. It's raging right now. That discussion has been raging all day. But the other discussion has been one that has been raging for a while. It's a mess. I mean, when you see somebody, again, throwing everything away, it's sad. It's sad, especially when it's people that you know. I mean, it's easy to watch as a stranger. You know, but if it's people again, you know, and you get to know, you feel like you get to know people anyway, you know, over years. I mean, this isn't a person, like I've said, you know, relationships or friendships in these spaces, they age in dog years. You break down every artificial barrier that friends have, you break them down real fast. That first day, you break them down. You do things on streams that you would, it might take you a year to get to. And if you stay friends with people for years, I mean, you get to know a lot about them. Like I said, I've known this guy for a long time. And I don't personally care about the things out in the weeds that people have been discussing, all of that stuff. What I care about is ultimately, I don't think that he's hit rock bottom. I think he's still in a mental space. Maybe he recognizes. I hope to God he does. I mean, ultimately, too, I don't believe he's pissed everything away. You know, things will change. They will. But I agree also on the thing. I mean, you're watching the decline going from hundreds of thousands. Again, we ebb and flow from what we cover. I mean, some topics I cover, I might have 600 people watching. And I mean, it's still. But with Nick, on the mic, like, he's the best of us. He was. He's good. You know, he's very good. We just saw everything change. And I don't, after that, I don't want to cover this anymore. I'll cover a legal document, but I feel like everything's been out there. If there's some new item legally, of course, that'll come up. And if Nick gets all of his shit sorted, everything put back together, man, I'll be one of the first people out there, you know, to have fun with him and goof off in the future. No, I hope that's the future. I hope this is the worst thing, and a year from now, this is just a speed bump, a cautionary tale, and everything gets put back together. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to hit super chats now. I don't think there's anything else to add to it. I thought Jim did a good job of talking about what was there, you know. But Sandra, thanks for the 10. Barnes made some legal sense. We'll know more once we see the warrant. Worry for the kids, yet the police barely mention them. Waiting for a week instead of a wellness check, a raid, a ram. Odd. Yeah, there's definitely oddity to that. Like I didn't understand the waiting for a week. Like, again, with a wellness check, I mean, you're typically talking about, if you're going to check on the safety of the kids, you're usually there. You know, you're there pretty quickly. If they get a complaint, they come in. So I don't know the answer to that. I think we will have more answers. Fallen Hero, thank you for that gifted membership too. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Sad Kermit, thanks for those 10 gifted memberships too. Thank you, Sad Kermit. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Sandra, also thank you for a gifted membership. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nansen, thanks for the 5. Don't be enablers. Exactly. I agree with that. I agree 100%. I think you can be compassionate, but I think we're at the point where you got to be loud. I don't think enough of us were loud, and I put that on me too. I think that's where, again, you may not like what some people have to say, but I think there were a lot of people, like with the farms and other places, that were very loud. Maybe the rest of us should have been too. I mean, I've noted concerns before, I've asked, but ultimately you can't make a person change either, you know. But yeah, you let him take his lumps. He did this to himself. He did. You know, I don't want to kick him either. I don't. But I'm so frustrated with seeing posts on the internet and other things, because that is not priority. The priority is not damage control in that way. The priority is damage control in your own life. And then when you're to that point and you have firm coping skills, you can do your own thing. You can go out, you can address this. You can be honest about it and say, this is what happened in there. And you can stand, you know, the reason I mention coping skills is because, you know, when you confront this is the thing that will push you back to that. It'll push you back to it if you're not on firm footing. So it ain't about kicking a person, but it's about being loud about it. I think we're to that place. I don't think we're to sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. And remember, it's been 4 days. So this in the news cycle, maybe that's old, but it's not. We're still in the DTs, and you know, even after that, the mental detoxifying. You know, the mental addiction is rough too. Your physical addiction, it wears off, but the mental addiction, that's a rough part. I won't say it's the roughest, because the physical detox is not fun either. But the mental part it's rough. Finding other ways, you know, not getting on live streams and drinking anymore. I mean, and again, being able to stand up, because there's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of people. This subject right here, it brings all sorts, and it's allowed to. Well, you know, it's absolutely allowed to. Part of that is Nick's audience as well. You know, a lot of the audience that, you know, I saw some people say the chat's rough. No, it's the audience that's there, and they're allowed to. Like a lot of that audience, that's not my realm. You know, it's not, but it's absolutely, there's nothing wrong with it. I appreciate all of you folks. Appreciate the hell out of you folks. And hopefully, like I said, I think a lot of you tried to help, and if are trying to help. I don't think that a lot of it's kicking a person down. But yeah, enabling, no. You can't enable. So Samantha, thanks for 5. Hey, Doug, wonder if you're attending Nashville Comic Con this weekend. Could I be there? It really depends. I don't know. Hansa, thanks for 5. Drugs and insecure SIG rifle with bullets around kids. Yeah, I mean, again, you know, there's a lot of concerning items there. Nora, thank you for the 5. No statement, but plenty of statement. Thank you. Sandra, thank you for 5. Personally, I don't care about the sexual preference. The issues are drugs and kids. It's messed up. I want the whole family to be okay and get help. I don't care what you do in your private life there. I don't. I'm not here to judge you on, like, your relationship status. I mean, again, it makes fodder for live broadcasts for different types. Yeah, that becomes fodder for sure. But that's not what I'm trying to cover there. Chris, thanks for the 2. So much wild speculation in chat. No one knows. Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, there's been again discussion from, a lot of it came from that guy, Aaron, you know, that's going to be the soon-to-be ex of that, I'm going to say, live-in nanny. And yeah, it's opened up a lot of conversation. And there will be, at some moment, again, Nick, I fully expect him to come out answering and doing whatever. I hope he's watching it. He's commenting on stuff on Twitter, so of course he's watching some of that. He was commenting directly on part of that to the guy that spoke at the end, Mr. Metokur. Oh yeah. Dan Sun thinks with Vibe. This YouTube version of gossipy Mean Girls. Nicks need to lay low. Don't have 100 channels making it worse. I think when it got to the point, here's the question: if this was someone else, would people talk about him? Would they? And on top of that, are we just talking about an issue that, do you think they're listening? Do you think like the quiet and handle it behind the scenes has worked? Again, I don't know about other people. I don't know what they've discussed. But as far as I know, nobody's leaking anything private or anything else. They're talking about, again, I see a lot of frustration. I see a lot of it from a lot of people that they wanted things to get better. And there's more of it coming on. Again, it's not spilling out in public. It's being discussed on Twitter by the person involved who, again, shouldn't be on Twitter. So, I think you get to that point where should it be handled by? Yeah, of course. Go to rehab. Like, take yourself out of it. And there will be certain channels that will talk about it to continue on with it. But I just, like I said, I don't think that approach helped. Yeah, and we sat on our hands and we all pretended there's nothing wrong. And that's on all of us. Publicly, people did that. I'm not saying privately people did that, but publicly. How far do you let it go? How far before you're like, fuck this, dude? Like, you have become content, man. Stop. Anyway. Dilly, thanks for the 10 there. Head tug. What's your best advice to any addict in this situation? Coke, alcohol, are both killers? How to get clean, in your opinion? Well, first of all, you can go through, I'm going to assume, well, okay, no assumption on this, actually. Let's just go. First of all, you can look up there's a government locator, SAMHSA. You can use, I saw some people complaining because this is governmental based, but you can find treatment facilities through it. You can find any type of treatment facility there. Look up your options for it. And then, again, you have to, I realize in your life you're going to have certain elements. Insurance, for example. If you have insurance and can afford it, boom, rehab. If you have the time, bam, If you can't, like, again, some of us are living paycheck day to day, and you can't have that. There are options for that too. If you don't have insurance, though, what you can do is you can contact places that either have grants. You can ask them about that. Some of them are listed as well. And you can also ask them about sliding scales. If you do not have money, many places work on a sliding scale. So they may give you support for free. If you can't in your life, again, you have to be honest about this. Some people, it would sink you to go to rehab. I understand that. That is the best option. Get clean, take off. Many people don't have a month to do that because, again, they'd lose everything. So what you can do, outpatients you're going to have to detox for about 24 hours. And then you find an appropriate provider, not some provider that's just going to go out there and pill push. But you find somebody that will properly administer Subutex, something like that, to deal with the physical withdrawal, because physical withdrawal is dangerous. You talk to a provider about other things too. There may be other options in there. Then when you get past that, you get into, there's a shot, Vivitrol. Vivitrol is a great item because Vivitrol will not let you get messed up. Plus, on the other side of it, so with Subutex, one of the problems with something like that is you can't get high on it. And an addict may try to get higher on it. They'll have to, I mean, again, you're going to have to be committed to this. You won't be able to get high. It's not going to work out for you. But with Vivitrol, the good thing about a shot like that is when you try, it's going to make you very sick. And that's going to work for two things. It's going to work, first of all, you're not going to continue. Second of all, that's going to condition you. Getting fucked up equals really getting fucked up. It's going to make you sick. It's going to wreck you. Like, those are options. You're also going to have to do things like change your entire environment. You're going to have to get away from people that allow this to happen. You're going to have to cut yourself off. Not, I can sit down and my friends that do this stuff, I'm going to be able to say no. No, you're going to say no right off from go because you're going to cut off all of that. You're going to have to make lifestyle changes. But again, ultimately, and you're going to have to do it for yourself. It can't be everybody, people say, well, do it for the kids or do this. That can be a motivational factor, but ultimately, if you don't do it for yourself, you will end up there. And you need aftercare too. You can also, again, attend AA, NA, you can pick up a counselor, all of that. Those are your best options. And a counselor, just like that, some of them work for sliding scales. Community mental-based health actually works out with that. So there are a lot of options. There's also helplines you can call and ask about, anonymous helplines where you can ask about what exactly the options are that are out there for you. I hope that helps. Raging Rhino, what's up, man? Thanks for the 3. Good day, Tug and Chad. Hope y'all are doing well. Hey, man, appreciate you. Also appreciate those five freaking memberships. Thank you, my friend. Telly T. Thanks, Tim. How the hell to come from Bell and not take a drink? Impossible. It'd be rough, man. White knuckle sobriety is bad. It's bad because first of all, it's bad health-wise. It is rough. If you are truly in the throes of addiction, it is rough. And on top of that, 1 out of 10 success rate. 1 out of 10. So. Blind Lawyer Explains, thanks for 2. You know who's a lawyer? You can reach me, Tongue. Indeed, thank you, buddy. So AJ Stone, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Appreciate that. Thanks, AJ, by the way. Appreciate you. Oh, MD, I don't know. I'll mess you up there. I'm a physician. I know it's the MD, so I'm going to go with the MD, all right? Thanks for that. I'm a physician in addiction. Rehab aside, wouldn't you agree he needs alcohol withdrawal support ASAP? Yes. I hope someone is watching. Yes, 100%. Yes. There's Nate. What's up, Nate, my boy? Thank you. I love Nate, by the way. Good people. The search warrant affidavit has not been released. This is what he's noting with the Barnes stuff. There's an entire discussion, and Nate did a damn fine job, I'm going to say, with his part of this discussion. You can go over to Legal Mindset, and you should tune into that because I like Nate because his background, first of all, he knows how this works from a law side of view. No, I'm talking about law enforcement side. He understands that portion of it. He also, he understands the lawyer argument, and he's not enabling. I don't feel like, again, I'm not saying a lot of people are, but I don't think his responses are going to enable anything. He's like, you don't know. Fucking know there. No one knows what the probable cause or PC was for the search. The arrest PC was finding the coke. We'll see how they got the warrant. Indeed. What's up, Colonel Kurtz? Thanks for the 10 there. Thank you for covering Viva and Barnes. I'll be doing a live stream talking Rekieta after yours at 10:30. But I scheduled it. I think you moved it up to, I think it just started, actually. I'm in Super Chat. If you want to go check that out, you can, for sure. I scheduled it. We won't conflict. Depends, interesting as usual. And also, the additional, Aaron there seems like a total D-bag. and he ain't doing his own kids any favors, aggressively dishing online like he is. I did wonder one thing on that. If he gets into a divorce hearing, like, can a lot of that be utilized as well? I don't know. Again, I'm trying to avoid that side of things so much, though. AJ, thanks for the 16 months. Hope that they get help that they need. Nick's family needs to be able to get through this and be okay. Indeed. Cyberhunk, thanks for the 5. Charlie Munger is known for saying, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. What are Nick's incentives? Yeah, indeed. I think there are so many incentives. So many. Think again. I think people are very willing to forget. I mean, the internet has a long memory. They will remind you of stuff. But if you can take the heat and take the jokes, man, they love a comeback story too. Robot Glock, thanks for the 10. Kayla needs to take one for the team, claim it's all hers. Nick skates, keeps his law license, room streaming. April, as a co-host, live-in nanny for the 5 kids. That is the worst advice I've ever heard. Thank you for the super chat, though. It's a terrible one. The blind lawyer explains, thanks for the 2. I'm a crazy uncle, not a friend, Tug. Indeed, there. Indeed. Also, Nate, thank you for the additional 5 there. Now, remember, this is probable cause for the arrest and not probable cause for the warrant. That's what we need to see. Yes. Like I said, again, the legal mindset discussion, it's about halfway through the stream. It is very good. Very good. Snake Plushkin, thanks for 5. Tug, has there ever been a house with 5 kids that isn't cluttered? I don't know, not that I would know, but not that I would know. Tilly, thanks for the 10. You know, my a clean, tidy house with 4 kids, home cooking meals too, even though she works too. Hey, that's props to you. Props to you. Lucretia, thanks for the 14 months. Those little voices, Tug, of your kids are the sweetest sound and always a good break. Yeah, they definitely, they give a good reality check. You know, they do. I mean, again, we all go through things, man. We all go through stuff. Some of it's known, some of it's not, you know. Ma, I think that's right. Thanks for the 2. Who's a bigger lolcow, Jack Murphy or Rekieta? Oh, I don't know. I've not gotten into lolcow voting or anything like that either. I think as a potential mess, again, I hope today is the day everything sinks in. If he was on Twitter and saw commentary to people, I mean, there were hundreds of supportive people being like, go to rehab or get offline, you know, do something for yourself. You know what you need to do. K-Rap, thanks for the 10 there. The idea that warrant issues are his best defense and being on social media, says Nick, isn't taking it seriously. We should be hearing nothing from him. Wonderful if CPS taking his kids, or wondering rather, if CPS taking his kids will wake him up. Now, the kids were taken to relatives' home, from what I understand, but CPS gets involved, is what they do. They put all these stipulations, you know, and they, we don't know the stipulations. There's a lot of speculation on it, but we don't know. I know what typically happens in that with controlled visits and stuff, but we'll see. I don't expect them to go full bore. Hey, here's everything back. Like that. This is it. The high profile thing has been brought up many times for that small town, and these folks, they know. Let's throw out anything about bias or anything else that has been discussed, right? But that there is a lot of attention on them, so they will play it. Again, I'm not talking about safety or anything else. I'm just talking about the amount of attention alone would make them possibly even overly cautious. You also, you may not find out any of those details. I find it particularly horrible that the mandatory reporter's name came out. Like, that's not something you normally see. Charlie, thanks for the 5. Brother, if you're buying 5 grams of chop for later stop, yeah. If you got, again, if you're buying an ounce, you have got a problem. But by the time you get there, you don't get there in a day either. You don't get there in a minute. You don't fix your problem in a minute. It takes time. All the other stuff, I don't, like I said, I hope. Include the X-Files, I want to believe. Jason, thanks for the 10. Read a case years ago where the Coke field test was positive, but the lab identified the substances as icing sugar. The cops had to test the bottom. The tops had tested the bottom of a donut box. That's crazy. I'll have to look that up. I'm curious about that. That's actually wild. King Lake, hey, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Doug's Thugs. King Lake, how you doing, man? My friend, by the way. Appreciate you, my friend. I'm Justin Y. And I post pointless trash. Thanks for the 10. Thanks for covering this. Yeah, you've been out. Well, like I said, I don't want to. Anybody who covers this can be like, you're a grifter, you're a monster. You know. Again, we spent how much time not talking about this? I've talked about it 3 times. I talked about it actually, I mentioned. I talked about it before the arrest. I talked about the arrest day. Then we found out about how bad things were, but we did not have the document that we looked at. We didn't have it. Then we ended up getting it a little bit later. It became known, but media had picked it up. So I talked about that when it came up. And then I saw this conversation. I wanted to see what happened this weekend, just to see how things went. I didn't do anything on the weekend, but I wanted to see how things... they shored up. And after that, it's not a fun conversation. Like some of this stuff is like some people enjoy it. They're like, ha, great. You know, there are people, but I don't find it particularly fun. You know, there's a lot of other cases out there that I enjoy. I do not enjoy watching somebody potentially self-destruct and have all of that. Like I said, somebody that is set on there. It's not just somebody I've sat on panels with. I shouldn't say it that way. Somebody, again, I've had fun with. It's helped me out, you know? And we cover topics. It is. It's very hard to cover a topic when it's somebody you know. Yeah, we cover topics. We cover cases. And we got to get it right. Like, there's been a lot of not correct reporting. You know, I'm not talking about again the idle speculation. I'm talking about just getting the basics right. Like what happened? What was the documents charge? What was listed in that? What exactly did it say? There's been just getting the basics, and you can't trust like media to get that. You have to talk about them too. My God. You know, there's also been discussion. So there's been a few big media sources from what I heard that were looking at this, like some big ones, because it's got all the elements that they like, and they hate Nick Rekieta. Let's be honest. Like he's gone after a lot of them. He's talked trash about the coverage, some of the specific people. So you know, and on top of that, there's cases that they would love to be able to throw into that. It's an election year too, so that, you know, some of those cases, they become that, and man, I mean it's trending. It's been trend, and it'll trend again because of the comment that was put out on his Twitter. It'll trend again. It's been trending since that live stream. That's crazy. Typically, a conversation or a topic that they won't trend for this long, but it tells you how big that is, and it's sad ultimately. Like even I had family member be like, again, I told this the other day. Somebody hit me up and was asking me about Rick Rekieta. They'd seen the name, and I was like, Rick Rekieta. Wait, what? You know, where'd you see that? Because that's not right. But they knew, you know, it's somebody that I knew and I'd live streamed with, done trial, you know, some trial coverage with, and they were like, oh my God, You know, is this happening? It's like, it's horrible. So, I mean, normies are seeing it. Dreadnought, thanks for the 45 months there. Hey, Doug, hope you and your family have been well. Thank you. Sorry I missed quite a few streams. Life's been busy. Sorry to hear about Nick. Hey, it's all great. Appreciate you, too. Thank you. Emma, thanks for fine. My dad was a priest. He told me if someone confessed to murder, he couldn't say anything because of the sanctity of the confessional. Stupid. Yeah, I mean, there again, there's specific elements. You can look over the specific laws that guide that. I mean, I know when I have to report something. No, I'm actually, I do not. I do other things with mental health. Like I said, the thing that really hurts to talk about is a kid element, because I stopped doing individual therapy after doing it for so long. It's just, I couldn't. And again, that's not me saying it's a horrible thing. It's horrible what happens with kids. So I hope everything is good. I hope, even that, again, not saying that anything was done to them, but the situation, all of that, they know. Kids know. They absorb everything. And remember, little kids especially. Like, I'm a 4-year-old. Like, I'm the most important thing in her world. I am everything in her. I'm the person that knows everything. I'm the person that can do no wrong. It is a tremendous responsibility. And you never want to betray that. You never do. So I hope they're okay. SF, thanks for the 5 there. People bitching about the mandatory reporter. Probably the same ones saying, oh, why didn't anyone report what's going on in Utah or Rekieta? What I don't like about that is when people are bringing up the real person's name. It's not mandatory reporter, too. I'm not bringing up this person's name. That people are bringing up their real names and talking about it. It's bad vibes. Thanks for 44 months there. Joking. Look, 25 grams of snow isn't much considering the size of the nose. And for the burns flying his way. Laugh for him, not at it. Yeah, I mean, people make jokes out of everything that's tragic. That's true. A lot of people handle horrible situations with jokes. They do. A lot of people, you never want to become content. Heather, thanks for the 23 months. 3 people. Well, how long would it last? It depends on how addicted you are. Honestly, at first, that's a weekend, that's a hard partying weekend right there. But it becomes a hard partying day. And then, it just depends. Like I said, it depends on how addicted. Once you become, I hate the word functional. What functional alcoholism or functional, you're not functional, you're dysfunctional, but you're moving through your day and you're doing everything in your day on a substance. You're still, your life hasn't unraveled yet, but at that level, you're consuming quite a bit. Because, if you stop, like cocaine is a very short high and you're always chasing it. That's the problem with any drug. You're always chasing. Like after that initial time, you are chasing it. Always trying to get back. Then you're always trying to stay, you're just trying to stay even. Because if you don't, you start withdrawing. That's rough. That's rough, especially if it takes more and more. So, there's not an easy answer to that, I don't think. Heather, thanks for the pun there. Sometimes CPS places children in worse situations. Yes, that is very true. That's a tragedy in this too. Because with CPS, and again, they didn't, but I've seen where kids have been removed. I'm not comparing, I'm just saying how CPS can make something bad. There was a situation where kids were removed because there were allegations that ended up not being true. Okay, with 2 parents. Kids were put into a foster care home because the allegations dragged on. I mean, all of this fight dragged on for so long. And in that foster home, one of the kids had the worst thing you could imagine happen to them, and the other one was physically abused. And yeah, I mean, in that situation too, if it's unwarranted, that's terrible. If it's through your actions, holy God, you know. So I'm not taking up for CPS ever, for sure. But they're needed sometimes too. Many people are doing it for money, more nefarious reasons. It's sad all the way around. Yeah, it is. It is. Frei, thanks for the 10 there. Joe, good logic, had a really good take on this. Most of it is on his local exclusive, but basically it was, yes, maybe this is sus, but beating at what cost to Nick his family was really good. Yeah, I think that's, if you get into that fight, like how long does it go on? What's the cost versus what's the quickest way that Nick and his family get to a point where they're all together, they're all safe, and assuming, like I said, that it's all substance based. What is the fastest way back to building up toward a future? That's the way I look at that. First offense and everything else. But again, if they entered the home for God knows why, I don't know. I mean, let's talk about that for 1 second too. What if both things are true? Like, we know Nick had problems, and we know this other thing is true too. That's a terrible situation in both aspects. What's the best way forward? It's fighting them for 4 years. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you want to be a constitutional test case. I don't know. I don't know. I do know on the other side of that, though, you can't wait around for that to get everything together. And it also, it will make it a prolonged conversation that will last for a long time, too. So, really, what is best? Can both things be best? I don't know. Angela, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Thank you. Welcome for the membership. Welcome to Doug's Thugs. Man, I stumbled over that. Thank you, though, Angela. Appreciate you. K-Rab, thanks for the 20 there. In Minnesota, you are criminally liable for child endangerment for neglect. Police storing a firearm where the person knows a child under the age of 18 is likely to gain access unless action is taken to secure the firearm as of 12/31/2023. That's interesting. Hamilton, thank you for the 5 there. A lawyer's job is to get the best possible outcome. That's true. Getting clients clean definitely helps, especially sentencing. But we aren't docs or social workers. And indeed, I agree with that. See, that's why I say we're having 2 conversations, and that is the rough part of it. I'm not a lawyer, so that's why I like having lawyers around too. They remind me of stuff like that. They remind me of the other conversation too. I think people who aren't lawyers see it as cope and other things too. They do. Like for me, I have to listen to the arguments 2 or 3 times just to see everything, and I ask lawyers about items too. I ask them about certain items that I don't understand as well. I've seen enough cases that I understand. Like if I'm going to go in and cover a trial, I mean that's fine. Most people are lay people, but yeah, there's a lot of things we lay people. We don't look at that. You're looking for, again, I agree, a lawyer's job, best possible outcome for client. Snake Plushkin, he's a wow, Mr. Metokur. I'm on Bisker, right? Metokur did a great stream, actually. He did a very good stream. And when he talked about that, Nick is a friend of his. Like, I would say, he has streamed, laughed at them. I mean, they have known each other for a long time. I have heard a lot of Mr. Metokur stuff. He's been around a long time. And I've never heard him like that. I've heard him laugh at stuff. He wasn't laughing. Not there. He may have laughed about certain things in that stream, of course, because there's some stuff that's just insanely, just it's crazy. You're like, oh my God, what? But this is not funny, and not for people that are close there. And Metokur is somebody, that, I mean, he can laugh at, he's laughed at all types of situations. He wasn't laughing there. I thought when he talked about it, he was stern. I thought what he said, was it worth it? When you looked at that. And I think that if it's presented in that context, like Nick, hey man, look at this. Is this worth it? Do you even see what's happening, dude? No, because maybe you got a problem. You got all this, and then, like I said, I think sometimes stern words, especially when dealing with guys, like you're going to get into that, and especially if people know another person, like if you know that person, like, and with frustration settles in. I've been more vocal in ways that I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know about. Why would I give a fuck about it? Like other cases like that. But like I said, when it's somebody you know. Cynthia, thanks for 20 there. Nice job, Tug. The mental health addiction take was needed. So damn sad. That is all. I agree. I'm trying to be fair in it. I am. Maybe I'm not sometimes. Again, that's where you get in. It's easy to sit across the desk and to listen to people's problems and try to help them identify what they already know they need to do. Help them with the solution that's there. Help them with that. But it's not as easy when you know people. And it's really not as easy when you know they're fucking up and you want to scream at them. It's harder when we're removed in this digital world. Because in the regular world, we could just grab a person and we go to their house and they could tell me to F off or whatever. But man, I can intrude on their life. When I cross a boundary here, you know what a crossing a boundary is for this? I was thinking about this today. You know what a crossing a boundary in this is here? Texting people about this very issue. That's me crossing a boundary. Have I? Yeah, I have. But that's not like in regular life, like I said. If it were a friend of mine, like that I knew that I hung out with all the time, man, I'd go over their house and they'd have to make me go away. We'd have this talk. We'd have had it before this. I've never dealt with anything like this in a digital realm. It's just it's a new weird place. LDG, thanks for joining. Completely support Nick. The change is his path. Free the net org. Been there, done that, and bounced back. Indeed, that is. I support Nick. I support him through his rough stuff. I mean, again, this is rough. If he needs help, all he has to do is ask for it. And I know other people, that the conversation will go further. But yeah, I mean, when we get to that point where I hope to God, when there's that redemption arc, like I said, I'm going to be the first person to be there. Well, there'll be a lot of other people too, but be the first person to be like, yo, I'm glad it's there for sure. Justin, what's up, man? Justin Wine, I post pointless trash. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Thugs. Appreciate you, man. Nick Wizard, thanks for 5. Nick is doing a live chat. We're chatting there now. I knew he turned on to chat. Is he there? Is he actually in the chat? I hope not. I'll check. I'm on his locals. I'll look. Oh, God, I hope not. Thanks for the 5. I think there's wisdom in using the story of the prodigal son as a structure in how to respond to all this. Yeah. Whoops, I forgot to pull that one up there too. Indeed. Indeed. King Lake, thanks for the 2. I forgot to read my big super chat. I thought I hit them all. Oh no, I missed one. Sorry, brother. King Lake, thanks for the 2 in there. Mom lost her battle with alcohol in 2003. It didn't help the family. Doc was also giving, anti-sad meds. They do that while knowing she was an alcoholic. I'll be the first to make a grumpy on him when he kicks the bucket. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Like, that's the problem with enabling. You know, a lot of people have been like, don't enable. I agree with that. No fucking enabling. Help, but no excuses. For sure. Also, Justin Y, thank you for the 50 there. Appreciate you noting that. King Leak had a super chat 5 minutes ago that's worth reading. Doc seems to be prescribing. Says NRIs as a quote-unquote solution, no matter the situation. Yeah, unless you're talking about working through withdrawal, and even then, you shouldn't be prescribing other addictive medications. If you find that is a problem too. Like when we were talking about finding a doctor, you notice when I talked about Subutex, I talked about finding someone that would do this appropriately controlled, because these are medications that can be abused. There ultimately there's different methods to getting someone clean too. I'm not just talking about alcohol here either. I want to make this clear too. I'm talking about multiple drugs. You know, when you get into certain solutions, there's specific solutions that work if we're only talking about alcohol. If we're talking about other items, you again, that's why you talk to provider. But yes, finding a competent provider is important. If you feel they're not competent, not that they're not telling you what you want to hear, but they're not competent, find another provider. That's frustrating, especially when you're in the middle of issues. If you're going out, if you're just trying to stop withdrawals so you can get clear-headed and find something else, again, specific options in the immediate. You got to be careful with anything. Lee, thanks for the 2. If the arrest is sus, Cos moves in mysterious ways. Yeah, I think that should be the biggest wake-up call. I hope it is. Very much. Nathan, thanks for the 2. Nick chatted in Camelot's live, said he had to run. Yeah, I'm going to go over there, I think. And Mike, thanks for the 5. Hey, Tug, did you get the email that said you had Dragon Treasure video? Did you see it? I did. I looked at that. I've watched a bunch of videos. I think they're all sad, just to be honest. All right. Give me 1 second. I want to find Camelot's live. I want to see if I can redirect us there. This will just take me a minute, you know. There's Camelot. There's the... I love Camelot. Camelot's somebody that's known Nick for a long time, too. So his name got brought up a lot, too. You know, it was crazy because there were people out there that blamed other folks. You know, like, why didn't this person do something? Or why didn't that? Like, you can't make people do anything, you know? You can't make them get better. You can't make them change or do what they've been doing. I wish you could, but you can't. Damnable thing. This stupid redirect is being garbage, man. I'm putting in the thing. It's just like I say, give me a second. I'm finished reading. If you go over to Camelot's, I'm just trying to redirect us all there. Making it easy. It will not redirect to his channel. What a bunch of trash. There it is. I got it. All right. Now I'm going to end. Like I said, I'm going to redirect to Camelot. I mean, I'm sure there's a good discussion there. I'm going to go over there myself. But anyway, I appreciate you folks. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Hopefully this is done and we're not going to talk about... Well, I mean, we'll have talks about legal documentation and stuff, but I don't want to have another talk about this tomorrow. So please, God, let Nick shut up and just not do anything today. You know, that way it doesn't get brought up. I'm sure people will bring it up in chat or whatever, but I want to cover the twin conspiracy case. I'm going to talk about that. You know, I appreciate y'all. Like I said, people have their own opinions on this. Some people think talking about it's cryptic, and it's okay. You can think whatever you want on that too. It's just, like I said, it's sad all around. But anyway, I'm going to go over there. Appreciate it.